I am unleashing a mysterious revival in Marvel. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 1 First Arrival. It was late at night. December was chilly in Chinatown. The streets, bustling during the day, were unusually quiet. New York's Chinatown, located in downtown Manhattan's southern tip, stretches across a vast expanse, encompassing over 40 streets. Its residents are predominantly Chinese. At the edge of Chinatown, in an old, three-story building with a red brick facade, a figure peered through a slit in the curtains, gazing at the somewhat quiet street. Most of Chinatown's architecture is a blend of Chinese and Western styles, with towering eaves and corners, and tightly packed square-shaped residential buildings. The streets are narrow, and the buildings lining them are covered in a haphazard display of Chinese memorial archways, making them appear unusually cramped. A yellow taxi, its engine humming softly, passed by the window below. The pale headlights shone through the slit in the curtains, casting a narrow halo on the ceiling before gradually fading as the vehicle drove away. As the roar of the engine faded, Ailin breathed a sigh of relief and lay back down on his bed. Inside the bedroom, hazy moonlight filtered through the slits in the curtains, casting a cool beam of light onto the floor, becoming the only source of light in the room. Ailin, lying on his bed with his head in his hands, stared at the ceiling silently, his eyes open, seemingly lost in thought, yet also lost in thought. A day earlier, Ailin was busy with his sponsor's private work, sitting in front of his screen, programming day and night. But in the midst of his excitement, he felt dizzy. When he woke up, everything had changed. He had inexplicably changed his body and appeared on the other side of the ocean, looking much younger. After a few minutes of shock, disbelief, and disbelief, Ailin began to accept reality. There was no other way. If he didn't accept it, or find a solution, he might be forced into prison. Because Ailin, who had just traveled through time, was not alone. Beside him lay a charming young woman. Don't get me wrong, that wasn't his girlfriend. Gwen Stacy. The person curled up in bed with him at that time was none other than Gwen Stacy, the academic prodigy of Central City. Even though her messy golden hair partially obscured her features, that youthful and pretty face was unmistakable to either Ailin or his original self. Stimulated by this familiar face, a flood of memories and information in his mind quickly merged with his. These were the memories of another Ailin, who shared the same name, from over a decade in this world. The information wasn't complete, much of it was vague, but it was enough to give him a preliminary understanding of his situation. It was precisely because of this that he clearly knew that Gwen Stacy was not even a familiar stranger, let alone his girlfriend. Perhaps the only thing they had in common was that they were both members of the elite Central City school. However, Gwen Stacy was the dazzling beauty and top student at school, perpetually holding the top spot. He, on the other hand, was a mere ordinary person with no athletic talent, a mediocre academic record, and aside from his good looks, no one would even glance at him. Of course, as a beautiful and talented woman, Gwen Stacy was the secret crush of many boys in Midtown, including Ailin. However, under normal circumstances, there would be no chance of anything happening between the two of them. Yet, just over 10 hours ago, they were both lying in the same bed in a small hotel. More importantly, they had both been drugged. A potent aphrodisiac, enough to inflame both of them. If that were all, it would be fine, and Ailin would be willing to help. But when Ailin's eyes caught sight of the old-fashioned VCR emitting a faint red light in the corner of the room, his body, fueled by the drugged desire, quickly calmed down, as if a bucket of cold water had been poured over it. A trap. Or rather, a conspiracy. Amidst intense heart palpitations, Ailin barely suppressed the burning desire within him, forcibly freeing himself from the unconscious Gwen. He placed his ear against the door, and sure enough, he heard the bragging and farting of three people not far away. "Henry, why do you think the boss insisted that we kidnap someone and kill that girl? It's such a shame to let such a beautiful girl get away with something else. If I can enjoy her once, it will be worth it even if I die, idiot. If you don't want to spend the rest of your life picking up soap in prison, then take care of your lower body. The father of that woman is the chief of the New York Police Department. If the big shot behind the boss hadn't said so, even the boss wouldn't want to mess with him. That's right, bud, don't look for trouble, otherwise we can't save you if the boss gets angry." I know. I'm just talking. Do you have to take it so seriously, huh? That's good to know. The kid inside has a 3-story building in Chinatown. The boss has always wanted to expand his business to Chinatown. If he can get hold of this kid, maybe it's an opportunity for us. I see. I was wondering why such a good thing got away with this kid. The chat of the 3 people outside the door made Ailin feel a little cold in his heart, but also confirmed his guess. After putting on his clothes, he tiptoed to the window. Peering through the slit in the curtains, he calculated the height of the room and breathed a sigh of relief. His room was about the 2nd floor, and outside the window was a deserted alley filled with garbage. At least if he jumped, he wouldn't have to worry about falling to his death. Just as he opened the window and was about to escape, he caught sight of Gwen Stacy's sweet face. If he jumped out of the window and ran away, what would happen to Gwen? If the group outside discovered his escape, there was no guarantee what they would do to her. Gritting his teeth, he turned around and carefully bolted the door, then moved a cabinet behind it. With these 2 safeguards, even if someone outside noticed something was wrong, it would take some time to get in. After doing all this, he climbed out the window without hesitation. He then found a nearby public phone booth and called the New York Police Department. As for escaping the room with the unconscious Gwen, I'm sorry. Ailin didn't have the skills. If they were caught by the group that knocked them unconscious, they might both end up dead. Fortunately, Gwen Stacy's father was the police chief of the New York branch, and her kidnapping quickly attracted the NYPD's attention. Chapter 2 Crisis. Shortly after Ailin called the police, a whirring cavalcade of police cars surrounded the hotel where Ailin had awakened. After a brief but intense exchange of gunfire, 2 bodies were pulled from the hotel, and Gwen Stacy was quickly rescued and taken to the hospital. Gwen Stacy was rescued, but Ailin, hiding nearby, felt a chill in his heart. 2 bodies. The police had only recovered 2 bodies, not the 3rd, despite having heard 3 people outside the door. 3 people, and only 2 were eventually recovered, indicating that 1 had escaped during the police raid. Ailin didn't know who the escaped person was, but he knew he was in serious trouble. Regardless of whether the men had entered the room before the police arrived, the fact that the police had only rescued Gwen Stacy in the room meant that a simple investigation would have revealed that the group had already fled before the police entered the hotel. Considering the precise police raid, if the gang wasn't completely foolish, they'd most likely blame him for it. He'd be in real danger then. This left him with only 2 options. One was to go to the NYPD and plead for protection as a victim. Because he'd made that phone call and saved Gwen Stacy, Ailin believed her father, George Stacy, wouldn't mind helping him. But was that really safe? He'd heard the kidnappers chattering about Gwen Stacy being kidnapped because one of George Stacy's enemies was displeased with him. Could he really protect him? And with such precise knowledge of George Stacy's daughter's whereabouts, Ailin had reason to suspect the high-ranking figure they were talking about was actually a member of the NYPD. If that were the case, then going to the police station and asking for help would be a real trap. No, I can't put my life in someone else's hands. Having just traveled to this world, Ailin, wary of everything and severely insecure, almost subconsciously rejected this path. Relying on the kindness of others wasn't something Ailin wanted. If that was the case, he'd have to find a way to solve this problem himself. But before that, he had to go back home. With that in mind, Ailin turned and headed towards Chinatown, where he had lived for over a decade. He took out his key, unlocked the door, and walked into the old 3-story apartment his mother had left him. As soon as the door opened, he saw Pepper Potts, draped in a blanket, sitting on the sofa in the living room with a frown on her face. Hearing the door open, Pepper Potts turned and saw Ailin standing at the door. The moment she saw Ailin, Pepper Potts's frown relaxed a fraction, only to tighten again. Pepper removed the blanket, stood up, and looked at Ailin. Staying out all night isn't a good habit. Could you tell Aunt Pepper where you were last night? Ailin was taken aback by the sight of Pepper Potts. It looked as if she had been waiting there all night. But soon, a fleeting memory reminded him of the person before him. Pepper Potts. Personal assistant to Tony Stark, chairman of Stark Industries. Formerly a partner in the company of Ailin's mother, Kelly Lynn, and her best friend. When Kelly was alive, she had invited Pepper Potts to stay at the building several times, even giving her a key. Around the time of Kelly's accidental death, Ailin had been lost in thought. Pepper Potts had helped arrange Kelly's funeral and the subsequent inheritance. If it weren't for Pepper Potts, Kelly's estate would have been divvied up by the vampires. Given the vampires' behavior, Leaving this 3-story building to Ailin was a truly generous gesture, not to mention the inheritance itself. Furthermore, the fact that Ailin, an orphan, was able to attend Midtown High, one of New York's top-ranked institutions, was largely due to Pepper's help. Recalling Pepper's relationship with her previous incarnation, Ailin's vision brightened. It seemed there was another path. Without holding back, Ailin recounted everything that had happened today to Pepper Potts. What? Pepper Potts's face paled after hearing Ailin's description. She had assumed Ailin had just hit puberty, gone to the bar with his friends, or spent the night out with that girl. Pepper Potts wouldn't say much about that sort of thing, only urging Ailin to be careful and avoid any casualties. After all, she had been young once. But who could have known Ailin's experience last night would be far more dramatic than she'd imagined. Kidnapping, gangs, police, death. All these elements combined could have been the stuff of a teen idol drama. Quickly realizing the potential danger, Pepper Potts immediately pulled Ailin aside and said sternly, "Leave this to me. I'll handle it. Stay away from home for a few days." "Stay at my place." Ailin shook her head. "Auntie Pepper, I'm grateful for your help. As for me, I won't be going back with you." Pepper Potts's neighborhood was a predominantly white, middle-class neighborhood. While the safety was better than Chinatown, it wasn't much better. If Ailin had stayed there, her safety wouldn't have been guaranteed, and it might even have put Pepper Potts in harm's way. That wasn't what Ailin wanted. Hearing this, Pepper Potts thought that Ailin didn't want to leave her home, so she put her hands on Ailin's shoulders and analyzed the pros and cons to Ailin in a serious tone. "If it's really as you said, the group of people who kidnapped you have actually been targeting you for a long time. It's not safe for you to stay here alone until the matter is resolved, Ailin. Believe me, when the time comes, you just need to stay at Aunt Pepper's house for a few days like you did when you were a child, and then Aunt Pepper will send you back when the matter is resolved." Before Pepper Potts finished speaking, Ailin spoke again. "I know, Aunt Pepper, I don't want to implicate you. I will find a place to hide by myself these days. Chinatown is large and very xenophobic. It's not easy for those outsiders to find me here. Don't worry, Aunt Pepper, I will protect myself. Besides, the New York Police Department is not a pushover. That group of people kidnapped the police chief's daughter. Now they may not even be able to protect themselves, but they may not think of me." After saying that, Ailin gave Pepper Potts a gentle smile and said, "Of course, I need Aunt Pepper to call the school and ask for leave for me." Chapter 3 Mutation. Convincing Pepper Potts wasn't easy, but Ailin eventually managed it. Of course, while this matter wasn't completely resolved, Ailin had to make sure to call Pepper Potts once a morning and once a night to let her know he was safe. This wasn't a difficult task for Ailin. However, before doing so, he had to go to a nearby mall to buy a new phone. Ailin's original phone had disappeared when his former self was knocked unconscious and abducted. It was unclear whether the group had embezzled it or simply tossed it into a trash can. After personally escorting Pepper to her car, Ailin headed home and secured the security door downstairs. While Chinatown wasn't as chaotic as Hell's Kitchen, the nighttime safety wasn't exactly good. The fact that Ailin had been clubbed while walking through an alley was a stark example of this. Not to mention, he now had a potential enemy. After seeing Pepper Potts off, Ailin didn't rest. He quickly returned to his room, grabbed a few changes of clothes, and then moved his bed and pulled back the carpet. Then, he took out the tools he had prepared long ago and dug out a slightly loose floor tile. Beneath the tile lay the life savings of his original mother and her grandparents, a bank card and 3 large bills. Ailin's mother, a strong Chinese woman, had died in a car accident a year earlier. With the help of Pepper Potts, Ailin's mother's inheritance of several $100,000 after taxes, along with a 3-story house on the edge of Chinatown, provided Ailin with the financial means to survive and successfully complete his studies. As for his father, well, he had almost no father. Ailin's mother explained that she went to a sperm bank, had sperm extracted, and had artificial insemination to avoid pressure from her parents to marry, and then gave birth to Ailin on her own. This angered Ailin's grandparents, reportedly so much so that they nearly broke up with their daughter. It was only after Ailin's birth that their relationship gradually eased. During his childhood, Ailin generally lived with his grandparents, while his mother provided the family with income. When Ailin was 10, an illness claimed his maternal grandfather's life. His grandmother, overcome by grief and depression, soon followed. Incidentally, this 3-story building in Chinatown was actually originally an inheritance from his grandparents. After changing hands twice, it came to Ailin's hands, resulting in a significant inheritance tax bill that significantly reduced Ailin's mother's wealth. Even with this reduction, Ailin's wealth still exceeded that of most people in the country. Besides $300,000 in bank reserves, Ailin's family also had $30,000 in some spare change. Furthermore, their three-story building, with a ground floor used as a shop, was a valuable asset. Perhaps this considerable wealth was the reason the gang targeted Ailin. A man without guilt is guilty of possessing a treasure. After retrieving 3 large rolls of US dollars and a bank card from under the floor tiles, Ailin stuffed them into his backpack, along with his clothes, and then reset the floor and bed. Afterward, Ailin closed his eyes and thought for a moment, then retrieved a key from his bedroom drawer. He sprinted down the stairs and used it to unlock the basement door of the aging 3-story building. Perhaps due to age and deterioration, the components were worn. After unlocking the door, Ailin kicked the wooden door hard several times before finally opening it. The force was so strong that it even knocked off the Protestant Bible calendar hanging on the wall. He waved his hand to clear away the dust and the stale air that poured out of the basement. Then, Ailin pressed a few buttons on the nearby wall. A second later, the lights flickered on, and the pitch-black basement suddenly became as bright as day. The glaring incandescent light was so bright that even Ailin was dazzled. Because his grandmother was afraid of the dark, his grandfather, when he was still alive, had put a lot of effort into renovating the basement with lighting. The results seemed quite good. After the air in the basement had circulated with the outside air, making it less murky, Ailin descended the creaky wooden stairs. From the hidden compartment beneath the second drawer in the first row at the basement entrance, he pulled out a pistol wrapped in oilcloth. It was a well-maintained Beretta with a gleaming silver luster. It was a treasure left behind by his grandfather. This Beretta 92F had protected 3 generations of the Lin family, repelling countless burglars and robbers. Ailin had grown up hearing stories about it. After his grandfather's death, Kelly had stored the gun in the basement to prevent Ailin from touching it. However, on every anniversary of his grandparents' death, Kelly would take it out and give it a good maintenance. Touching the still-oiled Beretta in his hand, Ailin felt an indescribable emotion. Come to think of it, this was Ailin's first time handling a gun. Besides, a gun is a hero's courage, and handling it gave Ailin a much stronger sense of security. After receiving the US dollar and the gun, Ailin didn't stay home for long. Instead, he quickly checked into a room at a Chinese hotel several blocks away. Recalling the day after his time travel, Ailin sighed. This experience was far more exciting than my previous life. Turning over, Ailin mentally sorted through the memories of his previous life. Although many parts were blurred due to the human process of forgetting, he still managed to glean a lot of useful information. Ailin's mind kept sorting through them, watching as if he were watching a movie. As his energy continued to exhaust him, his body began to feel an inexplicable extra fatigue. This fatigue grew, his consciousness gradually becoming hazy, his thoughts becoming muddled, and he was on the verge of falling asleep. At that moment, Ailin suddenly felt as if the air around him had stopped flowing, becoming sticky and strange. Then, a wave of frantic, eerie, yet alluring whispers drifted past Ailin's ears. It was as if dozens of people were surrounding him, whispering something. But no matter how hard Ailin concentrated, no matter how hard he listened, he couldn't discern what the whispers were saying. Instead, the irritation of his head throbbed with pain. Just as Ailin was about to groan, the eerie whispers, accompanied by the cacophony of countless voices, suddenly receded like a tide. The surroundings became hushed, the atmosphere felt eerie. And it wasn't just the surroundings. Ailin felt his own soul drifting as well. It felt as if his soul had crossed a barrier and reached some unknown place. When Ailin opened his eyes again, a pervasive white mist filled his vision. Chapter 4: The Scales of Fate. Where is this? The strange scene before him strained Ailin's nerves. He cautiously surveyed his surroundings and found himself floating at the edge of a boundless silver river. The white mist obscuring his vision was the water vapor wafting from this silver river. The mist flowed like mercury. Before him, a giant silver scale, like an unchanging reef, stood silently at the edge of the silver river, constantly absorbing the white mist that permeated the water. What is this? Driven by curiosity, Ailin reached out his right hand, half curious, half exploratory, attempting to touch the floating scale before him. The moment Ailin's finger touched the scale, a mysterious message suddenly emanated from the scale before him. Through the meaning contained in this message, Ailin understood the nature of this enormous scale before him. The scale of destiny. A treasure nurtured within the river of fate. Due to unknown reasons, it was contaminated by a certain entity and drifted to the world Ailin had previously inhabited. Guided by fate, it encountered Ailin by chance, saved him at the moment of his sudden death, and brought him to this world. Okay, so I was already dead before I crossed over, so this thing actually saved my life by bringing me to this world, but if you said you wanted to cross over, then why this dangerous Marvel world? Can't you take me to a safer world? The silver scale before Ailin remained unresponsive to his complaints. It was as if it were a truly inanimate object. However, Ailin, having received some of the information from the scale of fate, didn't believe it was simply a dead object. The scale of fate was its external form, and its abilities could actually manifest themselves in a form most easily understood by its host, according to their will. So, for a coder, what was easiest to understand? The system, of course. With a thought, the white mist before Ailin suddenly accelerated, converging and transforming into a simple panel before him. Name, Ailin. Destiny Compass. 100 destiny points per turn. Destiny Manifestation. Can manifest anything that has ever existed in the river of fate. Unlocked. Talent. Unpredictable fate. Destiny is unpredictable and ever-changing. You are the one whose fate is unpredictable. As the host of the scales of fate, no one can capture your fate or predict your future. Skills: driving, beginner, English, 11th grade, history, 11th grade, mathematics, 11th grade, chemistry, 11th grade, antique appreciation, beginner, programming, advanced, strength rating, noob, destiny points. 100, gift of fate, okay. As a high school in Midtown that advocates for quality education, the education level is quite good, known for mass-producing elite students. Unlike those crappy public schools that advocate for happiness and are known for producing a large number of rubbish students. Although the original self experienced the devastating loss of several relatives, he still maintained his academic performance in all subjects. As for programming, advanced, it must have been a precious legacy from Ailin's past life. His world before crossing over was already 2023. As a seasoned programmer, his understanding of programming was applicable to the present day, making it a high-level skill. It wasn't surprising. After reviewing the skills, Ailin also saw the rookie's strength rating. Well, Ailin wasn't surprised by this rating. But it also deepened Ailin's sense of crisis, making him more eager to improve his own strength. With this thought, Ailin glanced at the only available, Destiny Compass. On the dashboard 100 destiny points could be used to rotate the Destiny Compass once. It was unclear whether this price was high or low, but at least he still had one chance to rotate the Destiny Compass. Who knew if the 100 destiny points marked Fate's gift were a newbie gift from the scales of fate? Without hesitation, Ailin clicked on the Destiny Compass interface and chose to rotate it. There was no fancy interface, only the shadow of an enormous compass of fate. It flashed before Ailin's eyes. Before Ailin could even see what it looked like, the rapidly spinning compass stopped spinning, and the needle stopped at a certain selection. The next second, the shadow of the compass vanished into a point of light. And before Ailin, a pale blue light appeared. Delivered. Seeing the pale blue light drifting before him, Ailin's heart trembled. He reached into the light and grabbed the object encased in it. Ding. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the diviner potion. In Ailin's hand appeared a tube of dark blue viscous liquid in a test tube. Clicking on the detailed description of the diviner's potion, Ailin immediately saw the details of the potion in his hand. Diviner's potion, born in a world corrupted by the outside gods, a unique sequential power system. Potion level, sequence 9 effects. After taking this potion, the user will experience a slight improvement in various physical qualities and gain the mystical aptitude known as the diviner. This allows for efficient learning, mastering, and utilizing mystical divination abilities, as well as the ability to avoid the dangers of divination to a certain extent. Through various ritual magics, the user can also complete a certain level of psychic rituals. Note, in a world contaminated by the outer gods, any power system born there possesses a certain degree of madness and distortion. Taking this potion will erode the user's sanity to a certain extent. Those with weak minds should use it with caution. If the potion is not fully digested, the user may even risk losing control and becoming a monstrous creature. Looking at the diviner's potion in his hand, Ailin's expression was somewhat complicated. Ailin had read Squid Lady's Lord of Mysteries many times in his past. Back then, He had been amazed and even imagined what it would be like if he gained some of its abilities. But when this happened to him, Ailin found it difficult to accept. The power system of the mysterious world is widely acknowledged to be extremely unfriendly to travelers. The higher the sequence, the closer one gets to madness. Even becoming a god cannot escape this madness, and one must rely on specific anchors to maintain rationality. This kind of trait of being in the company of madness is definitely not what Ailin wants. Chapter 5 Taking the Potion. All the fate points granted by the scales of fate had been used for the lottery, leaving Ailin with no fate points left for a second draw. If he gave up the diviner's potion, he didn't know how long it would be before he could encounter a supernatural power system again. In a world dominated by ordinary people, gaining supernatural powers wasn't easy. And even if he did, most supernatural powers in the Marvel Universe had a ceiling lower than the sequence potion system. Without a certain level of power, could he really survive the day in this perilous world? Moreover, even if he accumulated another 100 fate points, would he really be able to draw something he was satisfied with? Thinking back to the information he had initially received about the scales of fate being tainted by a certain entity, Ailin doubted that even if he turned the fate compass again, the results wouldn't be much better than the diviner's potion. The scales of fate were tainted, so who knew if the results would be affected? Besides, he didn't have much time to dwell on it. That aside, even now, there's still a mountain of trouble waiting for me outside. Thinking of this, Ailin's gaze gradually hardened as he looked at the tube in his hand. At that moment, Ailin suddenly felt his body grow heavier, his surroundings drifting away. His vision darkened before regaining its focus. In a trance, Ailin found himself back at his rented hotel. If it weren't for the tube of deep blue potion still in his hand, Ailin would have suspected everything that had just happened was a dream. Doesn't seem so bad after all. At least I'm not without a cheat code, he chuckled softly, then tilted his head back and poured the diviner potion directly into his mouth. A cool, smooth sensation quickly filled Ailin's mouth, sliding down his esophagus and into his stomach. Then, the sticky blue liquid seemed to sprout long, thin tentacles, its coldness and irritation instantly penetrating every cell of Ailin's body. The potion's stimulation caused Ailin to twitch uncontrollably. Then his vision began to blur, as his soul seemed to ascend again. Everything around him rapidly distorted and became abstract. Even Ailin's thoughts began to drift, but fortunately, his remaining sanity maintained a shred of clarity. He forced his eyes open and took in the scene. All around him were strange, indescribable figures. They constantly surrounded him, as if trying to pull him down, make him one of them, and damn him forever. No, I can't let them hold me back. Suddenly, Ailin realized something. His consciousness suddenly sank, swiftly merging with his body. Boom. In an instant, the abstract painting returned to normal, and the figures surrounding Ailin quickly dissipated. The scene in the room returned to normal, but Ailin clearly wasn't recovering quickly from the potion's transformation. His head was instantly flooded with knowledge, feeling as if it were bursting, and his eyes were hazy and filled with double vision. The shadows whispered something in Ailin's ear, but he couldn't make it out. A stinging pain shot through his forehead, and he was quickly overwhelmed by the urge to vent, to destroy. He frowned, shaking his head repeatedly. It took a long moment for Ailin to overcome the nausea. After a long, stale breath, Ailin felt drenched, as if soaked in water, his entire body drenched in sweat. What a terrible experience, he gave a wry smile. But Ailin felt less pain than joy. Taking the diviner potion had brought Ailin more than just pain. It had truly granted him extraordinary power and a mysterious, transcendental knowledge. According to that knowledge, I should now meditate, learn to harness my power, and then control it. The first step was regulating his breathing. Ailin deepened his breathing and slowed down the pace. With each slow, rhythmic breath, Ailin gradually cleared his mind. Simultaneously, he imagined a vast, sacred scale within his mind, directing all his attention and thoughts onto it, thus eliminating all other distracting thoughts. Meditation requires visualizing objects that do not exist in this world, imaginary objects. Only in this way can one gradually transcend the self, becoming one with the eye of the universe, gaining insight and enlightenment into the truth, and acquiring knowledge that can only be grasped by oneself. After a single night of meditation and practice, Ailin, thanks to the diviner potion, was able to control its escaping power and, with some degree of mastery, master the ability of clairvoyance, As for the various abilities related to divination, Ailin still needed further study and practice to master them. Currently, he probably couldn't even effectively interpret the simplest dream divination. However, none of this could suppress Ailin's excitement. From today on, he was also a Beyonder. Becoming an Beyonder eased Ailin's sense of crisis somewhat. At that moment, there was a knock on the door of Ailin's room. The moment he heard the knock, Ailin's pupils shrank, and his right hand subconsciously reached under his pillow, grasping the Beretta. Compared to the diviner potion, which hadn't yet reached combat effectiveness, the deterrent effect of a firearm was more helpful to him right now. This cheap Chinese hotel didn't have a wake-up call service, and the owner wouldn't be so kind as to offer it. Picking up his pistol, Ailin carefully climbed out of bed like a cat, then picked up his backpack and stalked towards the window. Ailin had carefully chosen the location and room of this hotel so that if anything went wrong, he could escape quickly through the window outside his room. But at this moment, the person knocking on the door seemed to have heard the noise coming from the room and said, "Lin boy, I'm your Uncle Yuan. Come and open the door when you wake up. Last night we saw 3 black men sneak into Chinatown and pry open the door of your house. They seemed to want to do something in the dark, but we were caught by our Zhonggai Hall. Old Zing tortured them for a long time. They said they came to cause trouble for you. You'd better come and take a look, huh?" Hearing the words coming from outside the door, Ailin, who was about to jump out the window to escape, was slightly stunned. Chapter 6 Loyalty Hall. Ailin, about to escape by jumping out a window, was startled at the sound of someone speaking from outside. "Uncle Yuan? Zhonggai Dang?" As far as Ailin could remember, he actually knew someone he called Uncle Yuan. He was the nephew of a distant relative of Ailin's maternal grandfather. Back then, he'd smuggled himself into New York from mainland China, and it was Ailin's grandfather who supposedly arranged everything, helping him find a place to stay. Initially, he'd even stayed at Ailin's grandfather's house until he found a job and moved out. Because of this connection, the two families had a close relationship. When Ailin was young, Uncle Yuan would visit his grandfather with gifts during every holiday. However, Ailin's mother didn't seem to like Uncle Yuan, who was involved in gangs, and she didn't want Ailin to have too much contact with him. After his grandparents passed away, the relationship between the two families quickly faded. Even so, every spring festival, Uncle Yuan would still come bearing gifts. Recalling his memories of Uncle Yuan, Ailin hesitated. Arriving at the door blocking the wardrobe, Ailin peered through the peephole and spotted a square-faced man with a buzz cut, a burly build, and a scar at the corner of his eye. He tentatively asked, "Uncle Yuan?" "Nonsense. Who else could it be but me? You can't even recognize my voice," the man outside grumbled. After confirming through his clairvoyance that Uncle Yuan was alone outside and had no ill intentions towards him, Ailin moved the wardrobe blocking the door. Hearing the noise coming from inside, a strange look crossed Uncle Yuan's face as he stood in the doorway. After a moment, Ailin finally opened the hotel door and said to Uncle Yuan, "How could that be?" Uncle Yuan paid no mind to Ailin's insincere words. Instead, he glanced at the cabinets by the door and nodded with satisfaction. "Hey, not bad. You've improved a bit." Uncle Yuan walked into Ailin's rented room without any hesitation, then found a place to sit down and asked Ailin, "How did you provoke those people from the Water Ghost Gang? Their power is mainly in the dark. Logically, you shouldn't be able to provoke them, right?" Ailin said helplessly, "It wasn't me who provoked them, but they provoked me." Uncle Yuan raised his eyebrows when he heard this and said, "Tell me about it." "They must have set their sights on the house my grandfather left me and the money my mother left me, so they knocked me out and fed me medicine. They planned to take that kind of video of me to force me to surrender, but I escaped. Later, I called the police. The police rushed into the place where they kidnapped me and rescued another girl they kidnapped. It seems that they shot and killed 2 of them during the fight. The 3 people you mentioned might be the ones they sent to retaliate against me. To be honest, if you hadn't said it, this was the first time I even heard of the name Water Ghost Gang." Although Ailin didn't sense any malice from Uncle Yuan, he only chose some of the things he could say. As for the involvement of the NYPD precinct chief in a potential high-ranking figure, Ailin didn't even mention it. He even portrayed Gwen as an innocent victim. After all, Uncle Yuan wasn't a universally recognized good man like Pepper Potts. Strictly speaking, they hadn't had any contact in a long time. For Ailin, it was better to be cautious. "Have you set your sights on the house Uncle Lin left behind? The Water Ghost Gang seems to be expanding their territory lately. Could they be targeting Chinatown? After hearing what Ailin said, Uncle Yuan's brow furrowed, his brow furrowing so hard that it even pulled at the scar at the corner of his eye, making him look even more menacing. He pondered for a few seconds. Uncle Yuan stood up and said, "Come with me to see seventh uncle later. Then, tell him what you said to me, but focus on the fact that they've set their sights on your house. Chinatown is our Chinese territory. Whether it's this Hongai Tang or any other gang, we won't let outsiders get their hands on it." Ailin's eyes lit up at this. Uncle Yuan's meaning was clear. He wanted to spin the Water Ghost Gang's trouble with Ailin as a reflection of the Water Ghost Gangs targeting their Chinatown territory. Gangs like this Hongai Tang might not pay attention if someone in their own territory caused trouble, or if they intruded on other gangs. But if someone set their sights on their territory, this Hongai Tang would definitely not sit idly by. As long as this Hongai Tang took action, Ailin would be much safer, no matter the outcome. Thinking of this, Ailin solemnly said to Uncle Yuan, "I understand what to do." "Thank you, Uncle Yuan." Uncle Yuan's eyes flickered with joy, but he gave a dismissive wave of the hand. "It's just a small matter, by the way, let's go. Seventh uncle is old, we can't keep him waiting any longer, okay?" Since immigrating to New York, the Chinese in this Hongai Tang have constantly faced unfair treatment, oppression from capital, racial discrimination, and even bullying from some black people and gangs. Life for these Chinese was truly dire. Against this backdrop, a Chinese gang called the Hongmen emerged. They connected the poor with the wealthy, cooperating and negotiating with the government while also dealing with the oppression of the capitalist class, even resorting to violence when necessary. At its peak, 9 out of 10 Chinese were members. However, with a large number of members, there were also many concerns. After its heyday, the Hongmen declined, splintering into numerous Chinese gangs, large and small. This Hongai Tang was one of these. Today, while this Hongai Tang is not the most powerful of the Chinese gangs, it is one of the most established. Under the guidance of Uncle Yuan, Ailin arrived at this Hongai Tang branch. After walking around the hall and entering a room on the left, Ailin saw 3 black men tied together with hemp ropes. Their faces were a little bruised and swollen, and there was blood at the corners of their mouths. It was obvious that they were entertained by the hospitable friends of Hongai Hall. On both sides of the room stood a row of young men with unfriendly faces, and on the big mahogany chair at the top sat an old man wearing a tank suit and with his silver hair meticulously groomed. "Seventh uncle, the people are here." The old man sitting at the top put down the teacup in his hand, nodded to Uncle Yuan, looked at Ailin and said, "Tell me, how did you offend the Water Ghost Gang?" And they sent 3 people to break into our Hongai Hall's territory in the middle of the night with guns. It's not a trivial matter. Chapter 7 Warning. It's not that I've offended them. Shaking his head with a wry smile, Ailin followed Uncle Yuan's instructions and reiterated his earlier remarks, avoiding the main point. Sure enough, upon hearing this, seventh uncle flew into a rage. "How dare you!" His bony palm, like a hooked eagle's claw, slammed down on the table. With a crack, the mahogany table shattered into pieces. The sudden, resounding bang startled Ailin. He stared in amazement at the gaunt seventh uncle before him, unable to believe that such a withered old man could shatter a mahogany table with a single slap. Ailin wasn't alone. Everyone else in the room was startled by seventh uncle's words, their voices trembling as they watched, their voices trembling. Finally, Uncle Yuan spoke. "Seventh uncle, calm down. Those guys outside have been eyeing Chinatown for a long time. They've been eyeing it for a long time. Why get so angry? It'll only make you sick, HMPH. How can we allow outsiders to take over the foundation laid by our ancestors?" Seventh uncle snorted coldly. "I'm not dead yet." After saying this, seventh uncle's eyes became extremely sharp. He stared at the 3 black men tied up in the middle of the room like a hawk, as if he wanted to torture them to death with his eyes. "Yuan Li, take care of these 3 guys for me, and then go send a warning to the Water Ghost Gang. Tell them that Chinatown is our territory." "Yes." After responding, Yuan Li called a few people to carry the 3 guys, whose mouths were covered and whose noses and faces were swollen, away. After Yuan Li led his men down, seventh uncle's anger had subsided considerably. He turned and glanced at Ailin, saying, "For Yuan Li's sake, our Hongai Tang can take the fall for you. But since this matter was caused by you, you can't fail to show your support." As the leader of the gang, he had long since seen through Yuan Li and Ailin's plans. It was just that, as Yuan Li had said, Chinatown was the preserve of Chinese gangs like Zhongai Tang. They would never allow anyone else to get involved, and Seventh Uncle was willing to give face to a gang veteran like Yuan Li. Of course, face could be given, but Ailin couldn't fail to show his support. As a gang, Zhongai Tang never traded at a loss. Ailin was not surprised to hear this. There was no such thing as a free lunch, and Zhongai Tang was not some charity. Upon hearing this, Ailin said seriously, "Please give me some advice, Seventh Uncle." "Very good. I like smart people like you." Seventh Uncle seemed to appreciate Ailin's attitude and said with satisfaction, "I have two options for you. One is to join our Zhongai Tang. If you're one of us, the Tang will stand up for you, and no one will gossip. Of course, if you don't want to join the Tang, you can also choose another option. That's to pay $100,000 to buy your safety. $100,000 is enough for the young men of Zhongai Tang to stand up for you once. As for the Water Ghost Gang, after Yuan Li warned them today, I think you can stay quiet for a while. Of course, as long as you stay in Chinatown, we at Zhongai Tang will also ensure your safety." With that, Seventh Uncle fell silent, letting Ailin make his own choice. He, on the other hand, picked up a cup of fragrant tea offered by a younger brother and sipped it slowly. Ailin would certainly not join Zhongai Tang. As far as Ailin knew, although Zhongai Tang was not strong, it had a serious problem of seniority. Even if he really wanted to join the mafia, Ailin wouldn't choose Zhongai Tang. So, Ailin said bluntly, "I'll choose the second option." "The second option? I understand. Prepare $100,000 within 3 days, and I'll have someone pick it up." Seventh Uncle, though a little disappointed, wasn't surprised by Ailin's choice. However, this also made him lose interest in continuing the conversation. After a brief explanation, he let Ailin leave. After leaving Zhongai Tang, Ailin felt much better. Although the $100,000 hardship fee had reduced Ailin's wealth by more than half, which was a bit painful, he cared more about his own safety than his money. Shortly after leaving Zhongai Tang, Uncle Yuan, with whom Ailin had just exchanged contact information, called Ailin. "Lin, just go back and wait for good news. Once I've warned them in the name of the Loyalty Hall, those cowardly Water Ghost Gang bullies won't dare touch you. Don't worry." Before he could finish his words, a shrill wail and a plea for mercy rang out from the other end of the line. "You bunch of cowards, shut up." After the scolding, Uncle Yuan continued, "All right, Uncle Yuan has things to do here, so we'll cut short." Without waiting for Ailin to reply, Uncle Yuan hung up. "This is truly a pleasant surprise," Ailin muttered with a smile, silently putting his phone back in his pocket. Having rejected the idea of going to the police for help, Ailin had prepared for a hellish start, but he didn't expect all sorts of unexpected developments to unfold one after another. Whether it was Pepper Potts before or the Loyalty Hall's intervention now, it was all good news for Ailin. After leaving the Loyalty Hall, Ailin didn't leave immediately. Instead, he found a nearby rice noodle shop and ate his breakfast, huffing and puffing. He also checked in with Pepper Potts to let her know he was safe. 10 minutes later, the gates of Zhongai Hall opened again. Seeing Yuan Li and over 30 people hastily leaving in 5 vans, Ailin quickly hailed a taxi and followed. Initially, the taxi driver refused, unwilling to take such a potentially troublesome job. But after Ailin pulled out $500 in cash, he immediately promised to follow them. Over half an hour later, Ailin saw the Zhongai Hall vans parked outside a bar near the docks. Then, over 30 people, a huge crowd, rushed towards the bar called Morningstar. Morningstar? Could this bar be the home of the Water Ghost Gang? After noting the bar's name and location, Ailin told the driver to go home. For a fortune teller, battles are never just about the front lines. The first thing Ailin did upon returning to Chinatown was to put on a simple disguise and check into an unnamed hotel. He still vividly remembered being approached by this Zhongai Tang that morning. Although this Zhongai Tang was a local tycoon in Chinatown, the experience left Ailin with a sense of crisis. Furthermore, if this Zhongai Tang could easily come to him, what about the Water Ghost Gang? If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelists. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 8. Something happened. The docks at dusk were about to bid farewell to the day's bustle. Even some shops began to put up closing signs. However, some places remained brightly lit. After get-off work, some workers, after a busy day at the docks, would go home in groups of 3 or 4. Others would gather with friends to relax at a bar. In this situation, many cheap bars emerged along the docks. The Morning Star Bar, controlled by the Drowned Gang, was one of them. Many people on the docks knew that it was a bar controlled by the Drowned Gang, but as long as the drinks were cheap, they didn't care about anything else. And there was one advantage to these gang-controlled bars: they rarely caused trouble. On weekdays, 2 burly men in gray-black jackets, with bulging waists, would stand openly at the bar entrance, intimidating anyone who dared to peek in. "Hey, why isn't anyone guarding the door today?" several Morning Star Bar regulars muttered in surprise as they approached the entrance, then pushed the door open and walked in. As they pushed open the door, the scene inside made their pupils shrink slightly, and they all shuddered. Amidst a melodious music, dozens of people in the bar lay in the hallway, seemingly in a deep sleep, their chests motionless. The colorful lights cast a shadow on their faces, flickering in and out. A sense of eerie terror washed over them, along with an inexplicable pressure. The few who entered the bar shifted their necks and shoulders uncomfortably, then instinctively took a few steps back. Then, they suddenly realized that their companions were doing the same thing. What was going on? The hearts of the bar-goers trembled. The next moment, a faint humming echoed in their ears. It was a melody they had never heard before, and they couldn't understand its meaning. All they felt was a tingling sensation in their scalps, a deep-seated rage. The sound incited them to roar and kill everyone around them. And indeed, they did just that. A few minutes later, silence returned to the Morning Star Bar, with only the relentless, melodious music echoing through the quiet space. At that moment, a closer look revealed 3 more figures among the dozens of people already inside. The slightly ajar door was like the gate to the abyss of hell, ruthlessly devouring all who entered. Initially, no one knew what was happening at the Morning Star Bar. It wasn't until someone called the police that the New York Police Department took notice. Meanwhile, when Yuan Li's dozens of men hadn't returned, and their calls were unresolved, Seventh Uncle, who was waiting for news from the hall, immediately realized something was amiss. But when he sent another person to the Morning Star Tavern to inquire about the situation, the entire Morning Star Tavern, including the area within a radius of 50 meters, had been surrounded by a large number of police officers, and a cordon had been set up. "What's going on?" The 5 young Chinese people sent by Zhang Guiying to investigate stared in amazement at the hundreds of New York police officers not far away and the huge cordon. The Water Ghost Gang's Morning Star Tavern has been surrounded by police. Did Brother Yuan and his gang get into a fight? Or did they make so much noise that the police were arrested? It's possible. Brother Yuan and his gang brought 30 brave and courageous brothers with him. There's no way the Water Ghost Gang could handle so many people. The police must have brought their men to surround them. Brother Yuan and his gang didn't escape. Little 4, Little 5, go around and ask around to find out what's going on here. I'll call 7th Uncle and have him ask the police what's going on. If Brother Yuan and his gang are really arrested, we'll need to find a lawyer and get them all released on bail. Regarding the incident at the Morning Star Tavern, no one notified Ailin immediately. It wasn't until the next day, when someone from Zhongai Hall called, that Ailin learned of Uncle Yuan's situation. When Ailin hurried to Zhongai Hall, he found it much less crowded, and those who remained seemed somewhat distraught. As soon as he turned into the area, Ailin's mood suddenly darkened. He felt an inexplicable sense of depression, gloom. What was going on? Sensing something was amiss, Ailin paused, glancing around, but seeing nothing unusual. After a moment's thought, Ailin clenched his teeth and activated his clairvoyance. Suddenly, everything within his sight shifted, revealing the auras of the Loyalty Hall disciples. Ailin barely had time to examine their healthy complexions before he was drawn in by the rich, dark hue that symbolized emotion. The melancholy, sadness, and oppression hue almost blended into a single, dark shadow. What's going on? With a heavy heart, Ailin met his 7th uncle again. However, compared to a day ago, the old man looked noticeably more haggard, even his meticulously combed silver hair a bit disheveled. Upon seeing Ailin, 7th uncle raised his eyelids and said in a deep voice, "Something's happened to Yuan Li and the others." Ailin asked, "What's going on?" "There's something wrong with the Water Ghost Gang's Morning Star Bar. Since yesterday, no one who went in has left. Even the police station lost several officers inside. Now, the police have sealed it off. I asked someone to find out, and they say something strange is happening to them. Ailin's pupils shrank sharply at the words. Strange things? What the hell is this? The Marvel world doesn't seem to have a reputation for strange things, does it? Seeing Ailin's reaction, Seventh Uncle's face was filled with disappointment. The Water Ghost Gang incident was caused by Ailin, and Seventh Uncle had originally thought Ailin would know more. Unexpectedly, he was overthinking it. After a moment's silence, Ailin asked, "Are Uncle Yuan and the others still alive?" Seventh Uncle shook his head and said, "I don't know. I heard from the police that there seem to be hundreds of people trapped in the lobby of the Morning Star Bar, but no one knows whether they are alive or dead. As for more specific details, you'll need to find out for yourself, because I don't know either. And now, the Morning Star Bar case has been handed over to the FBI, I understand." Chapter 9: The Weird Morning Star Bar. After saying goodbye to his seventh uncle, Ailin hailed a taxi and headed for the street where the Morning Star Tavern stood. It was noon when Ailin arrived near the tavern. The sky was clear and the sun was shining brightly. But upon entering the street, Ailin shuddered. Just as Ailin arrived near the Morning Star, Coulson and Grant Ward, both dressed in sharp suits and with high hairlines, arrived at the entrance. "Is this the bar in question?" "It doesn't look like anything special," Grant Ward asked, perplexed, after taking a look around. "Don't be careless, Grant. The NYPD has already lost officers inside." Coulson took the special protective suit handed to him by a staff member and put it on immediately. Grant Ward followed suit, donning his protective gear to the teeth. After donning their protective gear, the two followed a tactical team, one in front and one behind, as they approached the tavern. As the tactical team pushed open the bar's door, melodious music suddenly swelled. Hundreds of people lay in the Morning Star's lobby, seemingly in a deep sleep, motionless. Coulson, observing this, gestured. The next moment, the tactical team leader led his men into the bar. Seeing nothing unusual, a flicker of confusion crossed Coulson's eyes. Grant Ward, observing the situation from outside, listened to the melodious music and, without realizing it, took a step forward, following the tactical team inside. Grant, Coulson, who was coordinating the situation from outside, immediately picked up his intercom and shouted. The shouting jolted Grant Ward awake for a moment. He realized he had somehow found himself standing at the bar's entrance, even raising his leg to enter the club. A cold sweat suddenly broke out on his back. "Back off." At this moment, Coulson's stern voice echoed through his earpiece again. Grant Ward retreated without hesitation, stopping only 5 or 6 meters from the entrance. "Huh?" He couldn't help but let out a breath, his gaze uncertainly gazing into the club. The bright lights and melodious music should have been an inviting, peaceful place, but to Grant Ward, it looked like a terrifying den. His momentary experience had immediately made Grant Ward realize the strangeness of this bar. He was a professionally trained agent, yet he had reneged on his plan and unknowingly wanted to follow the tactical team into the tavern. At this moment, Coulson quickly approached Grant Ward and asked, "What happened just now? Why did you follow him in?" "The sound," Grant Ward recalled with a grim expression. "Sir, when I heard the music in the tavern just now, my will was disturbed. It was as if I was hypnotized, and I followed him in without realizing it. If it weren't for your loud shouting that woke me up, I'm afraid." Grant Ward, who had originally not taken this mission seriously, recalled his previous state and felt an indescribable fear. He had been hypnotized by just hearing a sound. What a terrifying hypnosis. Not to mention being hypnotized, what kind of dangers would I face once I entered this hellish place? What if, while hypnotized, I revealed Hydra's identity, not only myself but also my family would suffer a tragic fate. The thought made Grant Ward's fear of this unremarkable bar grow stronger. Music? Hypnosis? Coulson's eyes lit up at the thought. Could the strange situation at the Morning Star Bar be caused by the music? Were those inside hypnotized by the music, thus oblivious to outside signals? At that moment, the situation inside the Morning Star Bar suddenly changed. The people sprawled on the floor suddenly tilted their necks, some even twisting them 180 degrees, facing the door in a strange position, staring at Coulson. And then, they all laughed. Being stared at by a bunch of clueless people, their pupils white with the whites of their eyes, made Coulson's hair stand on end. The way their lips curled up in unison made his back sweat instantly. Without hesitation, Coulson retreated again. This time, he didn't stop until he was 10 meters away. "What the hell is this?" Coulson had flown countless missions and was familiar with the anomalies of the human body. It was precisely because of this that he knew perfectly well that a living person couldn't twist their necks to such an angle. Unless they were alive. What exactly are those guys in there? Coulson gasped. He needed these breaths to calm his mind. Grant Ward, standing nearby, stepped forward with a heavy expression and addressed Coulson. Sir, the tactical team has lost contact. Huh? Coulson instantly turned his head and looked toward the door of the Morning Star. Through the crack in the door, he could just see the tactical team they had brought with them, now part of the Morning Star's lobby. They turned and stared at them with strange eyes. This is going to be a big problem. Just as Coulson and the others were startled by the scene in the Morning Star, Ailin, who was among the crowd outside the curtain, also received a message from the scales of fate. Ding. A destiny singularity that does not belong to this world has been detected. The forbidden object Moonlight DJ is stirring up the destiny line of the current world. It is predicted that after collecting this forbidden object, a large number of destiny points can be obtained and the ability to manifest destiny will be unlocked. The host is strongly recommended to contain this forbidden object. Ding. The scales of fate have captured it from the long river of fate. The method to contain the forbidden object Moonlight DJ is as follows. Method 1. Demigods and above can use their divinity to temporarily ignore the characteristics of Moonlight DJ and forcibly contain the forbidden object. Method 2. You can use the characteristics of the forbidden object's silent treasure box to offset the characteristics of Moonlight DJ, thereby containing the forbidden object. Method 3. Under the moonlight, sing a song with the forbidden object Moonlight DJ and achieve the achievement every time the moonlight shines. You will think of me to temporarily contain the forbidden object. Of course, the premise is that the song you sing is not too unpleasant. Method 4. Chapter 10 First Contact. Listening to the prompts in his mind, a series of questions popped up in Ailin's mind. Is this method for collecting the artifact serious? If I had the strength described in Method 1, I wouldn't have to hide from the gangsters like I am now. As for the forbidden item box of silence in Method 2, I've never even heard of it, let alone using it to collect the forbidden item Moonlight DJ. Method 3 seems more reliable. But looking at the situation at the Morning Star bar right now, Ailin suspects he'll be finished before he even reaches the forbidden item Moonlight DJ. Besides, the Morning Star bar is surrounded by a swarm of police, so there's no chance of him getting in. Huh? Isn't that guy giving the orders Coulson from SYNOPSIS? With that high hairline, I can't mistake him. Could it be that the incident at the Morning Star bar has attracted SYNOPSIS's attention? If that happens, wouldn't I have any chance of collecting the sealed artifact inside the bar? No. Aaron shook his head. If he took a risk, there might be a chance. Taboo objects aren't native to this world. Those people at SYNOPSIS must be grappling with how to handle this right now. Thinking of this, Aaron took a deep breath, forced himself to calm down, and pushed through the crowd of onlookers. He squeezed towards the patrol officer who was maintaining order at the edge of the cordon. Seeing Aaron pushing forward, causing chaos in the crowd around him, a young patrol officer, who looked to be in his early 20s, immediately shouted, "This is a serious crime scene. Stop pushing. Get back in. Hey, you, I'm talking to you, didn't you hear me? Stop pushing. Do you hear me?" Aaron, squeezing in next to the patrol officer, said, "Officer, please call Officer Coulson for me. The one with the high hairline and the walkie-talkie." Huh? The young patrol officer, who was about to scold Aaron, frowned slightly when Aaron accurately called out Coulson's name. Could this guy be an acquaintance of Officer Coulson? After a moment's hesitation, the young patrolman said, "I can get the commander for you, but I don't know if he'll see you." "Thank you, of course. And you can tell Coulson I have information about that troublesome guy in that bar." As he spoke, Ailin gestured towards the Morning Star. "That troublesome guy in that bar? If what you say is true, I think the commander would be happy to see you." Of course, seeing that Ailin didn't seem to be lying, the young patrolman trotted over to Coulson. He soon reached Coulson's side, pointed at Ailin in the crowd, and said something to him. "Does he know anything about the trouble in this bar?" Coulson glanced at the Asian boy in the crowd, then said to the patrolman, "Bring him here." Grant Ward, standing beside Coulson, said skeptically, "Does the kid really know anything here?" Coulson smiled and said, "Meeting him won't waste much of our time. It's better than sacrificing lives to get information. Maybe he really does know something." Soon, Ailin was brought to Coulson by the young patrolman. Upon meeting Ailin, Coulson didn't immediately inquire about the situation at the Morning Star. Instead, he asked, "What's your name, Ailin?" "So, Ailin, tell me, how do you know my name? I don't remember ever knowing you." As he spoke, Coulson stared at Ailin, observing his every expression. "Yes, you don't know me now, but you will definitely know me in the future. As you can see, I'm a fortune teller. And your name was obtained through divination, a fortune teller?" A series of question marks flashed over Coulson's head. Grant Ward, standing next to him, clapped his hands together, giving him an air of knowing what he was talking about. Even Coulson looked resigned. "Well, my little fortune teller, I'm not in the mood to play divination games with you right now. If you truly know what this strange bar is all about, please tell me. If not, you can leave now. You don't want to be charged with obstruction by the NYPD, do you?" Undeterred by Coulson's implicit threat, Ailin nodded earnestly. "Of course I know. If I don't have the real evidence, I'll get myself into trouble. However, every successful divination is a glimpse into fate, and it comes at a heavy price." So, as he spoke, Ailin extended his right hand, rubbed his index finger towards Coulson, and made a universal hand gesture. By this time, Grant Ward, standing nearby, had a darkening expression instead of disdain. "Good, right? These days, a con man has actually managed to trick SHIELD. He's truly a man of great age, wishing his life were long." Grant Ward clenched his fist and raised an eyebrow at Aaron. "Hey, kid, has anyone ever told you you're brave?" Before Grant Ward could finish, Aaron said, $100,000. "For just $100,000, I'll tell you what I divined. $100,000, you're not losing out. At least any Federation soldier's pension is more than that. This time, I'm offering this with sincerity. $100,000 might not seem like much to the wealthy, but it's definitely not a small sum. At least, most Federation families can't afford that much." To Coulson, Aaron's words were like a lion's mouth. But as Ailin said, from a certain point of view, this is indeed a good deal. At least a pension of any federal soldier is several times higher than this. If what Ailin said is really helpful for their operation this time, then $100,000 is not a bad thing. But what should be fought for must be fought for. Coulson does not want to be treated as a sucker. $100,000 is not a small amount, eh? Before Coulson finished speaking, Ailin interrupted directly. "Fate will not be discounted, so divination will not be bargained. If Chief Coulson thinks it is too expensive, I will leave now." "Coulson, well, I hope the information you provide is worth the price. Otherwise the consequences of offending a law enforcement agency are definitely not what you want to know." At this time, Grant Ward on the side flashed the assault rifle in his hand and sneered, "Coulson, you are too kind. If his wrong intelligence leads to casualties, he will face jail time." Chapter 11 Coulson's Favor. In response to Grant Ward's obvious threat, Aaron simply smiled. "Oh, I forgot to mention that the $100,000 is net after taxes." Coulson, Grant Ward, as the largest and most violent law enforcement agency in the Federation, the IRS is notoriously ruthless. They can deduct at least $20,000 in taxes from the $100,000. Aaron's response was a disguised way of increasing SHIELD's costs. Grant Ward's face darkened, and just as he was about to say something, Coulson quickly stopped him. If he continued, Coulson was afraid that this seemingly soft-spoken, but stubborn Chinese kid would raise the price again. "You said it, I agree. Now tell me what you know." "No problem," Aaron shrugged. "From what I understand, the Morning Star bar's current state is caused by a forbidden object. Once that forbidden object is sealed, the bar will be restored to its original state." "Forbidden object? What was that?" Coulson was puzzled for a moment, then immediately pressed, "What is this forbidden object you're talking about? What's its function? And how do you seal it?" "Forbidden objects are taboos left behind by the devil, and each one has a different function. The one in the Morning Star bar is related to sound. It can hypnotize, corrupt, and control creatures within a certain range. Just find the thing inside the bar that plays music, and you'll find it." "A taboo left behind by the devil? How come I haven't heard of it before?" Although they had some doubts, another piece of information Ailin shared coincided with their previous suspicions. Grant Ward's near hypnosis had already led Coulson and Grant Ward to suspect that the strangeness in the Morning Star bar was related to the strange music. Now, their suspicion seemed to be confirmed by Ailin. Thinking of this, Coulson and Grant Ward nodded. He could say that. It seemed that Ailin wasn't a con man, so for now, he could be trusted. After explaining, Ailin solemnly stated, "As for the seal, for this forbidden object, I suggest you mobilize a bomber to repeatedly bomb the Dawn Bar, completely destroying the seal within through physical means. This is the fastest, safest, and most effective method." The forbidden object Moonlight DJ wasn't particularly powerful, as described by the scales of fate. Ailin wasn't sure if a forbidden object of this level could be physically destroyed by artillery fire, but if it could, it would undoubtedly open up another avenue for Ailin. Of course, he also knew that Coulson would never adopt this method. Sure enough, before he could finish, Coulson interrupted, "Impossible, this wasn't the chaotic Middle East, but New York, the most developed city in the Federation." Coulson guaranteed that if they dared to use bombers to destroy New York over something like this, they would be torn apart that very night by angry politicians and citizens. Ailin shrugged. "So, then all we can do is wait." "Wait? Wait for what?" "Wait for the moon to appear. Moonlight is the key to sealing that forbidden object. Of course, before that, you'd better seal this place off and disperse the onlookers. Don't let anyone get close. Otherwise, the more people who enter, the stronger the power of the forbidden object inside the bar will become. The more people enter, the more powerful the object inside will become." Coulson frowned, then said, "I understand. I'll evacuate as many people as possible. But why wait for the moon to appear? Can't we do it now?" As he spoke, Coulson looked up at the somewhat gloomy New York sky. It was only just past noon. It would take another half-day for the moon to appear? Were all of them just going to sit there and wait until the moon came out? The lights came on, and the moon was high above the horizon. After a long day, the Morning Star bar was now completely sealed off from the inside out by a massive curtain installed by S.H.I.E.L.D. This would effectively prevent the Morning Star bar's situation from leaking out and causing panic, and would also facilitate S.H.I.E.L.D.'s subsequent operations against the bar. Even the people in the surrounding buildings were cleared out by Coulson, under the pretext of a gas leak. Meanwhile, Coulson sat in a trailer filled with sophisticated equipment in front of the Morning Star bar. In front of him lay a stack of freshly printed documents. A closer look revealed Ailin's name at the top, along with a photo he had taken earlier. For so long, besides clearing the area, Coulson had thoroughly researched Ailin's files. However, the information he had revealed Ailin to be an ordinary high school student. This clearly contradicted what Ailin had presented to him today. Furthermore, the information revealed that Ailin had recently been clashing with the Water Ghost Gang, the group behind the Morning Star bar. A few days ago, for unknown reasons, the Water Ghost Gang had kidnapped this guy and the daughter of the New York City police chief. Unfortunately, something had gone wrong, and he had escaped. Over the past 2 days, the NYPD and the city government, with Pepper Potts' help, have been giving the drillers a lot of trouble because of these two little guys. This guy definitely isn't out for revenge. Wait? Why did the drillers kidnap him? Could the events at the Morning Star bar be connected to Ailin? If so, then there's another explanation for the Morning Star bar incident. With this thought, Coulson closed his papers and exited the RV. It's time to meet up with that little guy named Ailin again. Meanwhile, Ailin, having bought a bunch of groceries in Chinatown, refilled his stomach with a burger and fries before returning to the Morning Star bar. As soon as they met, Coulson asked Ailin, "What should we do next?" In half an hour, at midnight, the forbidden object in the Morning Star bar is at its strongest and most vulnerable. At that time, you can find a way to bring it out and seal it. How? Coulson asked. Ailin shrugged his shoulders and said, "That's your business. Obviously, sealing a dangerous taboo object is not within the scope of our previous deal." Before Coulson's face turned ugly, Ailin changed the subject and said, "But for your sake, I can help you seal it in my personal capacity. But if you do this, you will owe me a favor." Coulson was silent for a moment, then nodded and said, "Okay." Chapter 12 Containment Success. If that's the case, let's begin. Containing the forbidden object Moonlight DJ had been Ailin's original goal. Furthermore, earning a favor from Coulson was a bonus. Of course, this also served as Ailin's legitimate excuse for containing the forbidden object Moonlight DJ. 10 minutes later, a tactical team equipped with multiple high-tech soundproofing devices, led by Grant Ward, stormed the bar. Once inside, several fighters unleashed their large nets at the hundreds of people in the bar's lobby. The rest of the group was also busy, using their submachine guns to fire at anything in the bar that might produce music. Unlike ordinary objects, Forbidden objects are not easily damaged. Even firearms cannot directly harm them. This was the simplest method Ailin had taught them for identifying forbidden objects. Outside the Morning Star bar, listening to the intense gunfire emanating from within, Ailin sighed inwardly. Fortunately, SHIELD, the unfortunate victim, helped him blaze a trail. Otherwise, if he were to succeed in containing the forbidden object, Moonlight DJ, he'd have no idea how long it would have taken. A burst of gunfire followed. Quickly, led by Grant Ward, two heavily armed soldiers, shielding a soldier holding an old record player, retreated quickly out of the bar. Behind them, a frantic crowd surged out of the bar. After rushing out, Grant Ward gestured directly to Coulson. Seeing this, Coulson flicked a remote control. The next second, several massive iron cages crashed down against the doors and windows of the Morning Star. Boom! The massive, blood-red, weighty cages shattered several people rushing out of the bar, while also blocking the Morning Star's entrance and halting the surging crowd. Watching the preset trap succeed, Grant Ward raised his middle finger at the crowd behind him. A bunch of idiots, Grant Ward cursed, his mood sour. Even though they were fully armed and temporarily shielded from the noise, within minutes of entering the bar, 5 more members of the 8-man elite tactical team were trapped in the Seer bar. Looking at the irrational crowd that recklessly attacked the tactical team, Coulson, standing not far from the bar, asked with a grim expression, "After sealing that forbidden object you mentioned, will these people be able to recover?" Ailin looked at the members of the loyalty hall in the crowd and shook his head dejectedly. "I don't know, honestly." He also hoped that after sealing the forbidden object Moonlight DJ, those controlled by it would be restored to their original state. After all, Uncle Yuan was among them. However, Ailin had never encountered forbidden objects before, and he didn't know if these people would eventually recover. Seeing Coulson's grim expression, Ailin pointed to the soundproofing equipment nearby and said quickly, "I advise you to wear these. Otherwise, if you're possessed by the forbidden object, don't blame me for not warning you." With that, Ailin ignored Coulson and quickly donned the multiple soundproofing gear Coulson had prepared. However, once Ailin had finished donning everything, he realized that Coulson, beside him, had already donned his gear. This old man communicated through sign language. Grant Ward and the others quickly placed the old record player in the spot Ailin designated. "Everything is ready. Now, it's up to you." As Coulson and the others watched, Ailin took a deep breath. Then, he quickly placed the 3 hurricane-proof candles around the old record player, forming a triangle. Then, he placed tulip, lilac, and lavender petals in the 3 corners. After completing the initial cover-up, Ailin sang directly to the forbidden object, "Moonlight DJ, if I were a DJ." Ailin had a beautiful voice. After he finished singing the song, the forbidden object Moonlight DJ suddenly clicked and stopped playing, as if lost in the sound of Ailin's voice. A strange feeling washed over Ailin's mind, letting him know that he had successfully contained it. At the same time, the scales of fate within Ailin's mind shook violently, directly smoothing out a vortex in the long river of fate. He took the opportunity to inhale the ripples of fate. Ding. Host successfully contained the forbidden object Moonlight DJ, calmed the fate singularity, and gained 1000 fate points. Ding. Fate manifestation successfully unlocked. Hearing the voice echoing in his mind, Ailin finally felt relieved. Phew. Finally, success. Only then did Ailin relax his tense mind and glance around. Coulson and the others were still standing guard around him with serious expressions. Fortunately, they were all wearing soundproofing, otherwise they would have been embarrassed. Not far away, the crowd controlled by the forbidden object Moonlight DJ fell silent the moment Ailin successfully contained it. Losing the mysterious power's control and support, they all collapsed to the ground. Grant Ward, upon witnessing the scene, widened his eyes and exclaimed in disbelief, "What's going on? Did the damned seal actually succeed?" Not only Grant Ward, but even Coulson quickly turned to look at Ailin. As agents, both Grant Ward and Coulson had previously harbored some doubts about Ailin's status as a fortune teller and his claims. But now, the truth was clear. If Ailin truly possessed the supposed fortune-telling ability, his value would instantly soar, making him a special talent possessing exceptional abilities. At this point, Coulson even considered recruiting him to the Strategic Homeland Defense Attack and Logistics Agency. Of course. Before this could happen, Coulson had to thoroughly understand Ailin's background. Grant Ward, a Hydra undercover agent, had also taken a certain interest in Ailin. If possible, he wouldn't mind introducing a special talent to Hydra. However, all of this remained to be seen. Ailin couldn't guess what Coulson and Grant Ward were thinking. Only after seeing the crowd controlled by Moonlight DJ fall did he truly breathe a sigh of relief. Chapter 13 Another Lottery. After a discreet glance at the fallen crowd, Ailin removed his headgear one by one, restoring his hearing. Seeing this, Coulson and the other S.H.I.E.L.D. agents followed suit, removing their soundproofing gear. Sure enough, it's more comfortable this way. With his signature smile, Coulson pointed at the old record player behind Ailin and asked, "Does this mean the seal is successful?" Ailin glanced back at the record player and nodded. "For now, it's a success, but my abilities are limited, and I don't know how long I can keep it sealed. If you don't want it to get damaged, it's best to create a completely soundproof space to house it." "Completely soundproof?" "I see." Coulson nodded, then looked at the hundreds of people lying on the ground in the Morningstar bar with a headache and asked, "Those people?" Ailin shrugged. "I'm not a doctor, there's really nothing I can do about this. If you want to save them, you can try sending them to the hospital." Before Ailin could finish his words, a soldier in combat uniform ran up to Coulson and whispered, "Sir, those people in the bar, including the team that rushed in during the day, they all have no heartbeats." Hearing this, Ailin, Coulson, and the others trembled. "Are they all dead?" Ailin sighed inwardly. So, Uncle Yuan was dead too. Ailin still had a certain fondness for the middle-aged man who had offered him a hand. Moreover, he had put him in this crisis because of him. It could be said that his risky cooperation with S.H.I.E.L.D. was largely motivated by the desire to save him. But to his surprise, he ultimately failed. After a moment's silence, Coulson personally went to check on the people in the bar. Upon inspection, he discovered that these people, who had just been roaring and fighting with their teammates, had gone incredibly cold and stiff. Not even their hearts were beating. If he hadn't seen it with his own eyes, Coulson would have believed someone who told him they'd been dead for days. Is this a forbidden object? Its appearance had caused over 100 casualties. If they hadn't discovered it quickly, the death toll would have been even higher. This truly was a demonic forbidden object. For the first time, Coulson had a deeper understanding of the term forbidden object. Following Coulson, Ailin murmured, "A 1,000-year-old change is about to unfold. The gears of fate have begun to slowly turn. Everything obscured by history will finally be revealed once again." Ailin's murmur was faint, but Coulson keenly caught it. Just as Coulson was about to ask a question, Ailin spoke first. "So many people have died this time. Sir Coulson seems quite busy." "Well, sealing this forbidden object has consumed too much of my energy. I need to go back and rest." Ailin, looking exhausted, turned and left without waiting for Coulson's reply. Coulson, about to ask something, turned back to the corpses scattered across the ground and gave up the idea of catching up. Just as Ailin had said, over 100 people had died. Next, he would be busy with some mission reports. Moreover, there was an extremely dangerous forbidden object he needed to deal with. Over an hour later, Ailin, having finally found a taxi, found another place to stay. After checking the room and finding nothing unusual, Ailin took a deep breath and entered a meditative state. In a moment of trance, Ailin re-entered the space containing the Scales of Fate. Upon seeing the Scales of Fate, Ailin immediately called up the familiar fate panel. Name, Ailin. Fate Compass. 100 fate points per turn. Fate Manifestation. Can manifest anything that has existed in the River of Fate. Unlocked. Talent, Unpredictable Fate. Skills, Driving, Beginner, English, Grade 11. History, Grade 11. Mathematics, Grade 11. Chemistry, Grade 11. Antique Appraisal, Beginner. Programming, Advanced. Combat Power System, Sequence 9. Diviner, Strength Rating, a novice who has mastered some introductory knowledge of the mystical side. Fate points, 1,000. Perhaps due to taking the Diviner potion and ascending to Diviner status, the Fate panel now has a new Combat Power System column, and even the Strength rating has changed from rookie to rookie. I'll skip this one for now. Ailin's eyes quickly settled on the Fate points. 1,000 Fate points. This was far more than the 100 Fate points the Scale of Fate had given him in the newbie gift pack. Forget about anything else, Ailin could draw 10 times from the Fate Compass's lucky draw. Furthermore, the Fate Manifestation feature had also been unlocked. However, after a brief look at it, Ailin dismissed this newly unlocked ability with a look of dejection. It was simply too expensive. Just manifesting a Desert Eagle pistol cost Ailin 100 fate points. And manifesting the Joker potion, the next stage of the Seer sequence, Sequence 8, required 2,000 fate points. For Ailin, the Fate Compass's lucky draw was far more cost-effective than the Fate Manifestation feature right now. Rather than saving these fate points to redeem them later, Ailin had only just taken the Seer potion a few days ago and hadn't had time to digest it yet, so the need for the Joker potion wasn't that urgent. It was better to make up for the cost of 10 consecutive draws now. He thought to himself. Ailin's mind struck. He immediately spun the Destiny Compass again. The next moment, the enormous phantom of the Destiny Compass flashed before him again. With a crisp click, the needle of the Destiny Compass stopped at a certain area before dissipating into a point of light. A ball of white light appeared before Ailin. After the Destiny Compass was delivered, Ailin didn't immediately remove the ball of light to see what he had won. Instead, he drew 9 more times, spending all his Destiny points, before stopping. When the Destiny Compass dissipated once more, 10 balls of light, 1 purple, 1 blue, 2 green, and 6 white, floated before Ailin. Do these colors, white, green, blue, and purple, indicate the rank of the prizes within the Destiny Compass, or the rarity? With a touch of doubt and excitement, Ailin reached deep into the purple ball of light. Chapter 14 Meditation and Recovering the Potion. With a touch of excitement, Ailin reached deep into the ball of purple light. Ding. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the Cosmic Brain Meditation Method. Cosmic Brain Meditation Method? What was this? Could it be something from some wizarding world? With a glimmer of anticipation, Ailin crushed the ball of light in his hand. After a flash of purple light, Ailin's consciousness seemed to enter another dimension of inheritance. In the center of this dimension stood a middle-aged man with a calm expression. Standing in the middle of this void, he spoke to Ailin word by word, as if teaching a student. I will now teach you the most advanced cosmic brain meditation method in the universe. Without further ado, he simply stated the name of the meditation method and began teaching. The middle-aged man sat cross-legged in a stable posture, then held one palm upright, a rounded shape. A smile, a kind and peaceful expression on his face, while the other hand drooped naturally, stroking the void. After seeing this gesture, Ailin suddenly felt a calmness within him. He felt fearless, no fears or delusions could disturb him. Distracting thoughts vanished, and wisdom suddenly emerged. Then, his hand seals began to shift, blossoming like lotus flowers. Sometimes he clenched his fists, sometimes he clasped his hands together, sometimes he formed a ring with his fingers, in a myriad of variations. Above my head is a meditation diagram of the cosmic brain. Meditating on the cosmic brain can strengthen your mental strength, strengthen your will, purify your mind, and allow you to realize true wisdom. The accompanying exercise is the Great Seal of the Heart. The Great Seal of the Heart can mobilize your spiritual power, integrate your physical cells, and deeply tap into your body's inherent potential. As the middle-aged man spoke, Ailin looked up and suddenly saw a vast starry sky overhead. This sky was densely packed with stars, as if trillions of planets formed a boundless nebula. From afar, this nebula actually took on the shape of a brain. Trillions of stars formed a galaxy, and countless galaxies interconnected, forming a vast nebula, resembling a brain. The paths between the stars resembled the grooves of a brain, and each planet flickered like the ceaseless activity of brain cells. This was the meditation pattern of the cosmic brain. While Ailin was stunned by this vast meditation pattern, the middle-aged man teaching the meditation method continued his instruction, repeatedly demonstrating the essence of the cosmic brain meditation method. The brain is the will is the thought is the spirit, and the spirit is the soul. Meditate on the cosmic brain, and your brain will become the cosmic brain. The middle-aged man continuously performed various mysterious hand seals and countless transformations in front of Ailin. These countless transformations, like images, were imprinted directly into Ailin's soul. After an unknown amount of time, Ailin sensed that the universe surrounding the brain nebula was like endless darkness. If the cosmic brain suddenly stopped flickering, darkness and terror would descend. He suddenly understood. His own brain seemed to be the brain of the universe, and the stars were his brain cells. These brain cells were constantly humming. If they stopped, his entire soul would vanish, plunging into the darkness of death. But just as Ailin grasped this truth, the void before him suddenly shattered, and he reappeared in the Libra dimension. Returning to the Libra dimension, Ailin discovered that the meditation method of the brain of the universe had been memorized deep within his brain, indelibly. Every posture, Every meditation pattern was engraved on his mind like a knife. Especially the twinkling stars of the brain of the universe, a nebula countless times vaster than the Milky Way, were deeply etched in his mind. A brief recollection of it made Ailin feel dizzy and his head throbbed. Seeing this, Ailin immediately stopped recalling. Although Ailin's face was extremely pale, he couldn't hide the smile on his face. Great stuff. The cosmic brain meditation method was infinitely more sophisticated than the basic meditation method included with a diviner's potion. It seemed to be one of the most advanced meditation methods of spiritual masters in some sci-fi universe. And the accompanying Great Seal of the Mind was also one of the most advanced hypnotic techniques. As long as Ailin mastered the cosmic brain meditation method, combined with the Great Seal of the Mind, he could quickly become the world's top hypnotist. Of course, besides rapidly increasing his mental power and hypnosis, a strong mental willpower not only enhanced Ailin's wisdom, but also helped him master his body in detail and develop his potential. More importantly, this meditation method could purify the mind and eliminate all distracting thoughts. This was undoubtedly crucial for Ailin, who faced the risk of falling into madness after taking the sequence potion. This was also the source of Ailin's unstoppable excitement. Wow, awesome! It's worthy of the purple level grand prize. After calming down a bit, Ailin turned his attention to the remaining 9 light balls, once again in order from best to worst. Ailin plunged his hand into the pale blue ball of light again. Ding! Congratulations to the host for obtaining the Joker potion, a sequenced potion, Ailin. Wow! Previously, Ailin had been considering saving those 1,000 fate points, amassing another 1,000, and then using the newly unlocked fate manifestation function to manifest a tube of Joker potion. Unexpectedly, in the first round of 10 consecutive draws, I've directly drawn the Joker potion. My luck is unparalleled. In the blink of an eye, with 100 fate points, I won the grand prize worth 2,000 fate points. Another huge win. Fortunately, I didn't foolishly save another 1,000 fate points to manifest the Joker potion, otherwise I would have lost a lot. Winning the cosmic brain meditation method and the Joker potion in a row, 2 good items, put Ailin in a good mood. The first 2 prizes were huge, and I wondered if the next 8 balls of light would also be full of goodies. I held a glimmer of anticipation. Ailin simply crushed the remaining 2 green, 6 white, and 8 light balls at once, taking out all the prizes drawn from the scales of destiny. Puff! Puff! As he crushed all the light balls at once, all the prizes drawn from the 10 consecutive draws of the destiny compass appeared before Ailin's eyes. Aside from the cosmic brain meditation method and the Joker potion, the items drawn from the remaining 2 green light balls were. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 15 Meditation. Besides the cosmic brain meditation method and the Joker potion, the remaining 2 green balls of light extracted a pink paper crane and a dozen dark green potions. Searching crane, simply tell it who you're looking for, and it will lead you to that person. Note, the pink crane embodies a desire to flap its wings and fly to a loved one. Limitations, this item doesn't work on the dead. You wouldn't expect a young girl's paper crane to carry you through heaven or hell to see the deceased. Number of uses remaining. 3. Universal antidote, can remove all common toxins, as well as most extraordinary toxins. Note, this antidote, crafted by a master potion master, contains a power close to the rules. 1 dose will cure any illness. Quantity, 12. The items that emerged from the 6 white balls of light were much more ordinary. They were a crystal clear crystal ball, a copy of the nutritionist's manual, a sharp dagger, an exquisite clown mask, a grenade, and a bottle of hallucinogens. Compared to the 4 previous rewards, the items from these 6 white balls of light were much more ordinary. Aside from the self-titled nutritionist's manual, the others didn't even have names. By observing the 10 prizes this time, Ailin had a rough idea of the level of items drawn from the destiny compass. First, the items from the white balls of light were the lowest level and most numerous. These were generally ordinary items without special functions or supernatural powers. Items like the crystal ball, dagger, clown mask, and grenade could generally be purchased in the Federation. Generally speaking, spending 100 destiny points to draw such items would be a complete loss. Above the white balls of light were the items from the green balls of light. Items like the 1,000 paper cranes for finding people and the antidotes were valuable items imbued with supernatural powers. They were the kind of treasures that couldn't be purchased with money. Drawing these items with 100 fate points is generally a win, but the green balls of light drawn from the destiny compass aren't necessarily immediately useful. Above the white and green balls are the items dropped from the blue balls. Fundamentally speaking, blue balls are undoubtedly rarer than green ones. While green balls typically grant you access to extraordinary items with limited uses, blue balls contain potentially magical items that grant you extraordinary powers. For example, the potions that Ailin twice opened. Purple balls, above the white, green, and blue, are undoubtedly even rarer. For example, blue potions carry significant risks, potentially driving the user insane or even degenerating into a monster. Purple items, on the other hand, grant supernatural powers but carry far fewer risks. Furthermore, this power can be passed down, potentially granting others the ability to possess them. Of course, Ailin has very little information on the items drawn from the destiny compass, so he can only make temporary summaries and guesses. In the Libra space, Ailin looked at the pile of items before him, his eyes flickering, his thoughts drifting. He hadn't even digested the Diviner's potion yet, and the Joker potion wouldn't be needed for now, so he'd leave it in the Libra space for now, to avoid any accidents. He could take out a bottle of the universal antidote, and carry it with him in case of poisoning. The losing person paper cranes wouldn't be useful either, so he'd leave it in the Libra space for now. The crystal ball and the nutritionist's guide wouldn't be needed for now either. However, these common items could be kept at home once the danger was over. The dagger, clown mask, grenade, and hallucinogen spray could be taken out for self-defense. With this thought, Ailin picked up the dagger, clown mask, grenade, and hallucinogen spray, and with a thought, everything around him shattered. Ailin's body plummeted downwards, as if from a great height. In a trance, Ailin was back at his rented hotel. Compared to before, Ailin now possessed a dagger, a mask, a grenade, a hallucinogen spray, and a universal antidote, among other items. After regaining consciousness and vision, Ailin discovered that he had awakened much more quickly this time than the last time he had emerged from the Libra dimension. Is it because I took the Diviner's potion this time and became a diviner? My mental strength has been significantly strengthened. Ailin's thoughts drifted, a little uncertain. After silently making a mental note of this, Ailin stuffed the items in his backpack. After checking his surroundings and finding nothing amiss, Ailin returned to bed. Once in bed, Ailin sat cross-legged on the bed, following the meditation posture of the cosmic brain in his mind. He then visualized the cosmic brain meditation diagram, combined with the great hand seal of the heart, and began meditating on the cosmic brain. Following the memory imprinted directly upon his soul, Ailin's hands involuntarily formed various hand seals. 10 fingers connected to the heart, hand seals linked to the heart, hearts connected to each other. As soon as he performed this simple act, meditating on the brain composed of hundreds of billions of planets, Ailin's mind instantly became incredibly focused. It seemed as if every brain cell in his brain was pulsing with activity, his thoughts racing. If his brain were a computer, then while it previously processed dozens or hundreds of calculations per second, now Ailin's mind was processing at least 1,000. The speed of his thoughts had suddenly increased by more than 10 times. His hand seals, combined with his meditation, continuously operated a cosmic brain meditation method. As he practiced a cosmic brain meditation method, Ailin's mental power slowly grew at a noticeable rate. However, this increase in mental power didn't make Ailin's thoughts clearer or his mental processing speed faster. Suddenly, Ailin hadn't even finished practicing the cosmic brain meditation method when he felt a sudden dizziness and a rush of hot fluids from his nostrils. He quickly stopped the hand seals and wiped his hands, only to see they were stained with bright red blood. Chapter 16, Incoming Call. Nosebleed? Was this the cosmic brain meditation causing thoughts to flash too quickly, affecting the brain? This is what's commonly known as overexerting the brain. This isn't surprising. Someone who racks their brains and exhausts themselves might even go gray overnight. Ancient sayings say that excessive wisdom leads to injury, and excessive wisdom leads to premature death. Modern scientists have even died from excessive brain work, often immersing themselves in deep thought to solve problems. Ailin's current situation is a case of overexertion harming himself. It seems that while cosmic brain meditation is effective, it also consumes considerable energy. Currently, He can't even complete a full visualization practice, so he can't use it much? Gurgled just as he wiped the blood from his nose. Ailin's stomach growled. The next second, an overwhelming hunger quickly overwhelmed Ailin's mind. So hungry, it felt like Ailin had been starved for 3 days, feeling the horrible hunger he felt when he'd eaten a cow whole. What's going on? Why am I so hungry? I bought a loaf of bread for a midnight snack on the way back. Could it be that meditating on the cosmic brain just now has overexerted him? With this thought, the famished Ailin quickly pulled a few US dollars from his backpack, shouldered his backpack, grabbed his room card, and headed downstairs to the hotel. Hotels like these in Chinatown are usually surrounded by restaurants, snack bars, and fast food outlets. Some are even open 24 hours a day. Ailin was lucky. Shortly after descending, he spotted a 24-hour burger joint on the street. He entered the shop and, under the stunned gaze of the staff, devoured 3 Big Macs in a row before leaving, clutching his stomach and burping. The burger combos in the Federation are quite generous. Not counting the drinks, a Big Mac alone weighs nearly 2 or 3 pounds. A healthy adult might not even finish a Big Mac in one sitting. This time, Ailin devoured 3 Big Mac combos. After consuming 7 or 8 pounds of food, Ailin felt like his stomach was about to burst. But the scary thing was, even though his stomach was bulging, the hunger lingered. Even after eating so much, it only slightly lessened his hunger. I can't eat any more, or I'll die of stuffing. Shaking his head, Ailin suppressed his hunger and headed back toward the inn. The energy required to visualize the cosmic brain far exceeds the normal needs of the human body. Under these conditions, a normal eating pace wouldn't be able to keep up with the nutrient consumption. If that were the case, Ailin's body would likely be worn down by meditation after just a few sessions. He needed a solution. The body's ability to digest food and obtain nutrients was too slow. He needed a way to ensure he could get more nutrients. Ailin didn't want to be worn down. Wait. Didn't I win a nutritionist's manual earlier? My current nutritional deficiency is quite significant. I wonder if there's any information in there about how to quickly absorb nutrients. I'll check it out when I get back to the inn. With a thought, Ailin quickened his pace and quickly returned to the inn. After a quick shower, under the inn's slightly ambiguous pink light, Ailin began to study the nutritionist's manual, which he had won through the lottery on the scales of fate. Upon opening it, Ailin discovered that it was a special book from a sci-fi world. The nutritionists here were a specialized profession created specifically to formulate nutritious diets for the genetic warriors of that sci-fi world. Beyond daily nutritional recommendations, the book also contained recipes for dozens of nutritional potions, designed to help those genetic warriors, who had consumed significant amounts of energy, quickly recover. If the ingredients in this book existed in this world, Ailin might even be able to replicate and create some of that world's super nutritional potions. It's truly a case of searching high and low for gold, yet finding it without any effort. Ailin, in high spirits, was about to open the nutritionist's handbook to study it carefully, but after just a few glances, his head began to throb slightly. Was this the after effect of excessive visualization of the cosmic intelligent brain? Okay. I was so excited after flipping through the nutritionist's handbook that I forgot about this. Forget it for now. What I need more than studying the nutritionist's handbook is rest. After closing the nutritionist's handbook and tucking it under his pillow, Ailin lay down on the hotel bed and rested. Not long after, he fell into deep sleep. Inhale, inhale. Ailin's breathing was natural. If you observed closely, you could see that his stomach was rapidly breaking down the high-calorie food he had consumed, distributing the nutrients throughout his body. His cells seemed to be constantly peristaltic, each one strengthening and brimming with vitality. Various endocrine systems were also rapidly secreting, perfectly harmonizing Ailin's body. This is a mechanism that the human body uses to regulate endocrine function during a deep, high-quality sleep. Through repeated cycles, Ailin's shrunken body quickly became fuller. When Ailin awoke again, it was already the next morning. As soon as he woke, he felt an incredible surge of energy. Not only had the after effects of visualizing the cosmic brain been cured, but his entire mental focus was far greater than before. Listening closely, he could even feel his breathing, heartbeat, and pulse. Boom, 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 the vibrant heartbeat powerfully, a testament to its powerful vitality. Upon waking, he felt a sudden sense of relief. Is this the effect of visualizing the cosmic brain meditation? It's truly noticeable. Ailin's body had undergone such a dramatic transformation in just one session. If this continued over time, Ailin couldn't imagine how much stronger his body would eventually become. Ding ding ding, ding ding ding. Just then, Ailin's newly bought cell phone rang. A call. After picking up the phone and flipping the switch, Ailin heard Pepper Potts' voice. Little Ailin, are you awake? Chapter 17 The Beginning of Revenge. Awake, Aunt Pepper, good to hear you're awake. Auntie, I have good news for you. Pepper Potts on the other end of the line seemed in high spirits. Even through the phone, Ailin could clearly hear the joy in her voice. Good news. Is my case resolved? Ha ha ha, my little Ailin is so smart, you guessed right. Pepper Potts paused before continuing. The mastermind behind the kidnapping of you and your classmate last time was a gang based in the docks. Over the past 2 days, I've contacted a city councilor through my connections at Stark Industries. Using his influence in city government, I've been putting pressure on that gang. Plus, Chief George's constant troublemaking has intimidated them. This morning, they sent someone to assure you they won't bother you anymore. Although Ailin had anticipated something similar when he left the Morning Star last night, he hadn't expected this call to come so soon. The Morning Star was the drowned gang's headquarters. Normally, most of the Drizzt were concentrated within the group. When the Forbidden Item Moonlight DJ erupted, most of the Drizzt were confined to the Morning Star bar. Now, with so many killed by the Forbidden Item Moonlight DJ, the Drizzt strength has been severely weakened. This weakened group has been exposed to the eyes of the surrounding gangs. Surrounded by wolves, the Drizzt struggle to hold on to their territory, let alone harass Ailin at this time. That's great news. Pepper Potts, on the other end of the line, breathed a sigh of relief and said with a smile, well, you can rest assured now. The school just called to ask about it. You can go back to school tomorrow. Your high school career is almost over in half a semester. If you're looking for a good university, you don't have much time to waste. Oh my goodness. The Water Ghost Gang incident had just concluded, and they're already urging me to go back to school? This is truly. Shaking his head helplessly, Ailin agreed. Okay, I understand, Aunt Pepper. I'll be back tomorrow. If it were before last night, Ailin might have given up on his studies and sought to rapidly become stronger. After all, this was the perilous Marvel Universe. Strong strength was the only way Ailin could survive in this world. But after a quick glance at the nutritionist's pairing manual last night, Ailin felt he needed to return to school and systematically study plants and biology. To better formulate the super potions in the nutritionist's pairing manual, he needed sufficient theoretical knowledge. Furthermore, the names for many plants and animals in the two worlds differed slightly. Ailin would have to spend considerable time and effort matching the different plants and creatures in the two worlds, and then research the super potion recipes in the nutritionist's pairing manual. On the other end of the line, Pepper Potts seemed to detect the resignation in Arlen's tone and couldn't help but purse her lips in a smile. After giving Arlen some instructions, Pepper Potts quickly and hastily hung up. As Tony Stark's personal assistant, Pepper Potts's job wasn't easy. She was faced with a mountain of tasks every day, not to mention the recent turmoil at Stark Industries. Pepper Potts had taken the time out of her busy schedule to address Arlen's situation, which was a great effort. Meanwhile, after hanging up the phone, Arlen fell into deep thought. The fact that they had been able to force the Water Ghost Gang to surrender showed that the Morning Star Bar incident had had a significant impact on them, and they were already struggling to cope. Otherwise, they wouldn't have been so anxious to make such promises to Pepper Potts so early in the morning. Since they were already struggling, could he not just root out the problem? Yesterday, while accompanying SHIELD and helping them resolve the Morning Star incident, Ailin also glimpsed a wealth of new information on the Drizzle Gang. The Drizzle Gang's leader is Onik, nicknamed Giant Ghost. It was his muscular physique, sharp intellect, and aggressive personality that single-handedly established the Drizzle Gang on the docks. He happened to be away from the Morning Star the night before, narrowly escaping the incident. However, 3 of the Drizzle Gang's 4 leaders were actually inside the Morning Star that night, keeping watch. Add to that the smaller leaders and minions, and the Forbidden Item Moonlight DJ nearly wiped out the Drizzle Gang. Now, aside from Onik, the leader, and his brother-in-law, the main leader, known as Waterweed, the Drizzle Gang lacks any other high-ranking members. If you were to eliminate these 2, the Drizzle Gang would be leaderless. When that time comes, having clearly seen the Drizzle Gang's weakness, the gangs surrounding him would rush forward like sharks smelling blood, tearing the Water Ghost Gang apart and devouring them. Only then would Ailin truly be free from all worries. Thinking of this, Ailin couldn't help but reflect. With the Water Ghost Gang now severely weakened, if Giant Ghost Onic wanted to defend his territory, he would have to send his few remaining followers to train and watch over the situation. This would mean he wouldn't have many followers around him. This was undoubtedly the best opportunity to kill him. Furthermore, with 1,000 paper cranes, even if Giant Ghost Onic went into hiding, he wouldn't be afraid of not finding him. At this thought, Ailin's eyes flashed with a fierceness. Since that's the case, let's put an end to this once and for all. Before nightfall, Ailin continued to wander through the alleys of Chinatown, buying whatever he thought he would need. He began preparing for the evening's operation. As night fell, after some disguise, Ailin quietly left his 3-story building. He then avoided the numerous cameras at the intersections and followed a narrow alleyway in Chinatown, guided by the 1,000 paper cranes in his hand. Slowly but steadily, he crept towards the location of the Giant Ghost Onic. Chapter 18 Killing Night. Hell's Kitchen. It's the most depraved and filthy place in all of New York City, and indeed the entire Commonwealth, a hub of crime. Looking around, the alleys lining the streets of Hell's Kitchen are a mess, piled high with carelessly discarded garbage, resembling a garbage dump, and the stench is overwhelming. Empty bottles and deformed cans occasionally roll along the sunken, crumbling pavement. The air is filled with a sour, rancid odor of rotting food, along with a variety of strange, yet decidedly unpleasant, smells. The dreadful environment, dilapidated streets, and chaotic public order make even New York patrol officers reluctant to spend any time there. Every patrol they're forced to perform is a perfunctory one. However, this chaotic security also breeds crime and a hub for crime. Gangs are rampant in Hell's Kitchen, and countless New York criminals and scum have hidden their identities and sought refuge in Hell's Kitchen. One of the lair of the Giant Ghost, Onic, is located in a graffiti-covered red brick building in Hell's Kitchen. Onic, the enormous giant ghost, nearly 2 meters tall, was chugging beer. After gulping down a 500-milliliter bottle in one gulp, Onic crumpled the can in his hand with a gloomy expression. The unfinished brown liquid flowed down Onic's heavily tattooed right hand, accentuating his already gloomy appearance in the dim light. Ever since accepting the mission from that powerful figure, Onic had been having a rough few days. He felt completely miserable. Not only had the mission gone awry, leaving him without the desired item, but several of his subordinates had died, and he had gotten himself into trouble. The New York Police Department and city government had been relentlessly pursuing him these days. The relentless pace had been suffocating, almost suffocating him. To make matters worse, the Morning Star Bar, the home base of the Water Ghost Gang and their long-standing operation, had also been plagued by trouble. The so-called poison gas leak directly killed most of the members and leaders of the Water Ghost Gang, instantly weakening the gang and causing heavy losses. Even more damning was the fact that with so many people dead at the Morning Star Bar, as the gang's behind-the-scenes boss, he had to spend a large sum of money to comfort the families of the deceased. Otherwise, without any pressure, the remaining members of the Water Ghost Gang would instantly fall apart. What made Giant Ghost Onic uneasy was that while the Water Ghost Gang's strength was being severely weakened, the surrounding gangs, like sharks, were eager to devour them. When Onic, unable to hold on any longer, sought help from the gang's powerful figure, he was met with a barrage of abuse, accusing him of incompetence and causing so much trouble. Fuck, at this thought, Onic, in a fit of rage, slammed the coffee table in front of him. Bang, the glass coffee table, which had seemed incredibly sturdy and durable in the past, shattered instantly under Onic's iron fist. Shards of glass splattered the floor, even leaving bloody streaks on Onic's hands and face. Fuck, this scene infuriated Onic even further, spewing obscenities as he toppled over everything around him. From inside the room, he could hear the curses and the crackling of objects being smashed. The 2 Water Ghost Gang members guarding the door flinched in surprise, then cautiously retreated, gently closing the door behind them. One of the gang members, wearing earrings, said cautiously, "How terrifying. I wonder when the boss's anger will subside, who knows? I just hope we don't get pissed off by the boss and end up getting hurt," sighed the other gang member in a leather jacket. Just then, the lad raised his nose, sniffed the air, and asked, "What's that smell?" Another lad also twitched his nose, then shook his head. "I don't know, but it smells quite nice. Could it be that woman's perfume?" "Bullshit. Where else would there be women in this house besides us?" As soon as the man in the leather jacket finished speaking, his eyes blurred, and he stumbled against the wall behind him, fainting. The other lad, startled, thought something had happened to him. But as he hurried forward to help his companion, he too, from the high dose of LSD, collapsed and passed out. A moment later, after confirming that both men had truly passed out, a man wearing an elaborate clown mask quickly opened a side window and climbed in. With a sharp dagger, he quickly slashed across their necks, then stabbed each of them in the heart. Ailin glanced in surprise at the special LSD in his jacket pocket. This stuff was surprisingly effective. Repeating his old trick, he gently sprayed the remaining half-filled bottle of hallucinogen from his jacket pocket through the crack in the door into the room where Giant Ghost Tonic was. Then, Ailin pulled his grandfather's Beretta pistol from his waist, loaded it, and waited patiently. The hallucinogen, from some unknown world, in Ailin's hand was indeed quite effective. Soon, Giant Ghost Tonic, who had been constantly smashing things around the room, quieted down. After waiting patiently for a while longer, Ailin opened the door a crack. Through the gap, Ailin could clearly see Giant Ghost Tonic, stronger than a brown bear, sprawled on the sofa like a dead dog. His log and 1,000 paper cranes had, at some point, quietly rested on Giant Ghost Tonic's head. Was this Giant Ghost Tonic, the leader of the Water Ghost Gang? Activating his clairvoyance, confirming Onyx's peaceful green coma, Ailin exhaled. After waiting for a while, until the smell of hallucinogens in the room had dissipated a little, Ailin stepped into the room. The first thing he did after entering the room was to rush forward, pierce the chest with a sharp blade, and directly pierce Onyx's heart with a dagger. Until his death, Onyx did not make a sound. In just a few minutes, the leader of the Water Ghost Gang and 2 of his brothers died silently at Ailin's hands. Huh? After confirming Onyx's death, Ailin finally breathed a sigh of relief. Before sneaking into the house, Ailin confirmed through his psychic vision that in this small building in Hell's Kitchen, besides Onyx, there were only 2 brothers waiting to be dispatched. With the death of these 3 people, there were no enemies in the house that Ailin needed to be wary of. Chapter 19 Gwen arrives. To be honest, this infiltration had gone somewhat more smoothly than Ailin had anticipated. The Water Ghost Gang's leader, Giant Ghost Tonic, was also easier to dispatch than Ailin had anticipated. He didn't even offer any resistance, they were inexplicably knocked unconscious and then met their end at Ailin's hands. Even before their death, they had no idea who their enemy was. Of course, Ailin's easy dispatch of the 3 Water Ghost Gang members, including Giant Ghost Tonic, was also largely due to the unexpectedly potent hallucinogenic spray. Ailin looked at the 3 men lying in a pool of blood, and thought with some emotion. It seems killing is easier than I thought, and people are more fragile than I thought. It's a shame the remaining leader of the Water Ghost Gang isn't here, otherwise, I could have taken them all out at once. This killing didn't cause Ailin any discomfort, nor did he feel any perverse excitement. Instead, he felt a natural, unforced calm. It seemed as if he genuinely believed that killing was no big deal. Shaking his head, temporarily banishing this somewhat insane thought, Ailin, donning gloves, began searching the house. He had dealt with a Giant Ghost Tonic and his men without using firearms or causing any major commotion, leaving him plenty of time to clean up the mess. Over half an hour later, after clearing his tracks, Ailin, carrying a heavy backpack, quickly left Hell's Kitchen, avoiding the few security cameras on the streets. 10 minutes after Ailin's departure, a simple trap had been set in place. A spark in Onyx's house ignited the natural gas valve that Ailin had opened. With a resounding boom, raging flames devoured everything within. By the time the fire trucks arrived and extinguished the flames, the house had been completely charred. Inside, only 3 bodies, charred and nearly carbonized, spoke volumes. By this time, Ailin had already returned to Chinatown. In his room, he emptied his backpack and counted the spoils of his raid. The first thing that caught Ailin's eye was the stacks of tightly packed US dollars. Over 100 bundles, plus some change from looting corpses, had boosted Ailin's wealth by a staggering $1,308,520 US. Furthermore, before Ailin lay 15-kilogram gold bars and a stray stash of jewelry. These were all retrieved from the safe in the house. Ailin wasn't entirely sure about the current gold price in the Federation, but 15-kilogram gold bars, plus the jewelry, were worth at least $1 or $2 million US. Wow! This wave of murder and arson had boosted Ailin's wealth by $2 or $3 million US. It truly lived up to the old saying, killing and arson brings gold belts, while repairing bridges and roads leaves no corpses, Ailin shook his head. After hiding all his gold, jewelry, and most of his US dollars in a secret compartment under his bed, Ailin kept only a few $100,000 for emergencies. He then showered and took his spare clothes to the basement of the old house, burning them completely. After completing this, Ailin returned to bed and fell asleep. While Ailin slept, Coulson, who had finally built a completely soundproof room and carefully placed the forbidden object inside, finally stayed up all night to finish writing his mission report. Just then, one of Coulson's agents knocked on his office door and broke the news that the Water Ghost Gang leader, Giant Ghost Onik, had died in a fire. Died in a fire? That seems like a coincidence, because of the forbidden object. Onik, the giant ghost and his gang, the masterminds behind the Morning Star Bar, had long been on Coulson's radar. So, when Onik died, Coulson received the news immediately. The agent delivering the message shrugged and said, "Of course, Onik wouldn't have died so simply in a fire. I've had someone inquire with the police, and the medical examiner says Onik and the others were likely dead before the fire, otherwise their bodies wouldn't be in that shape. There are a lot of people eyeing the drillers right now. I'm guessing they sent someone to kill him and disguise that as a fire, is that so?" Coulson nodded. Did the NYPD find out who was responsible? Coulson's agent shook his head. By the time the fire trucks put out the fire, Onik and the others were already burned beyond recognition. All clues were consumed by the flames, leaving no useful information. And the nearby surveillance cameras didn't show any suspicious individuals, so I suspect the killer is a repeat offender, otherwise, his methods wouldn't be so skilled. Repeat offender? Coulson shook his head. Besides the gang members who did it, could someone else have killed them to silence them? Coulson had someone investigate, but no one had ever seen that old record player at the Morning Star Bar before. That forbidden item couldn't possibly have appeared there for no reason. And for some reason, when he heard the news of Onik's death, the first thing that came to his mind was the face of the Chinese teenager who claimed to be a fortune teller. The next morning, Ailin woke up early and took a taxi to Midtown High, where he was studying. After his mother's death, his original self had become somewhat withdrawn, keeping to himself and having few friends at school. His absence from school for several days had surprisingly not caused any disturbance. This, however, was convenient for Ailin. Instead, the Dean of Academic Affairs, who met Ailin at the school gate, asked about his health with concern. Ailin guessed that Pepper Potts had used her illness as an excuse to request leave from Midtown High, so he just laughed it off. After sitting in the classroom for a few minutes, with the teacher still not arriving, Ailin met someone who surprised him. Gwen Stacy, with her blonde hair, pretty face, and sweet smile, quickly attracted everyone's attention when she arrived at Aaron's classroom. She glanced around the classroom and quickly fixed her gaze on Aaron. Chapter 20 Invitation. Upon seeing Aaron, Gwen Stacy's eyes lit up. She quickly walked over to Aaron, her face slightly flushed as she spoke. "Hello, my name is Gwen. Can I borrow a few minutes of your time, Aaron?" "Of course," Aaron shrugged. "In fact, there aren't many people at Central City High who don't know you." With that, Aaron stood up and left the classroom with Gwen. Behind them, a large crowd erupted in jeering and chatter. Gwen was the undisputed goddess of Central City High, her every move drawing widespread attention. Some of the more gossipy girls gathered together to discuss the relationship between Aaron and Gwen. Listening to the chatter, several members of the school basketball team stared angrily at Gwen and Aaron as they left, their thoughts unsettled. After leaving the classroom, Aaron and Gwen remained silent for a moment, though neither spoke. It wasn't until they reached a secluded corner that Gwen broke the silence, saying, "Thank you for that day." Hearing this, Ailin said awkwardly, "Actually, I'm glad you don't blame me in your heart. Back then, a man and a woman were alone in the same room, both drugged. Under those circumstances, aside from the final step, almost everything that should and shouldn't have happened had already happened. That's why the atmosphere between them had been so awkward." As Ailin finished speaking, Gwen seemed to have a thought, and a faint blush crept into her ears. A translucent, rosy pink, it looked incredibly alluring. How could that be? Embarrassed, Gwen tucked a lock of hair behind her ear and shook her head. "You finally held back that day, didn't you? If it had been someone else, I guess." Ahem. Seeing a teacher approaching from a distance, Ailin immediately coughed twice, interrupting Gwen's words. If Gwen continued, and someone overheard her, even Ailin wouldn't be embarrassed. Interrupted by Aaron, Gwen fell silent until the teacher passed them. She changed the subject, By the way, it was you who called the police that day, wasn't it? Yes, Aaron nodded. There was no denying that. We were all drugged that day, and you were a little delirious. I had to run away first, then call the police. I knew. If you had taken me with you, neither of us would have been able to escape. Gwen, a beautiful and intelligent woman, heard Aaron's hidden guilt and interrupted. And my dad said it was those things you blocked behind the door that bought them time to shoot those criminals. Aaron chuckled softly, but remained silent. No wonder so many people at Central City High liked Gwen. She was beautiful, had excellent grades, and a high emotional intelligence. Who else would they prefer? At that moment, Gwen seemed to have a sudden thought and said, "Oh, by the way, my mother invited you to dinner tomorrow night to thank you for saving me. You won't refuse, will you?" Hearing this, Ailin glanced at Gwen in surprise. He had just seen Gwen naked, and now she was invited to dinner? Was this the mother-in-law meets son-in-law dynamic? Ailin shook his head. That's not necessary. After all, I didn't help much. Unexpectedly, before Ailin could finish, Gwen placed a finger on his lips. You can't refuse. I promised my mother. You don't want me to break my promise, do you? Feeling the warmth of her lips, Ailin couldn't help but lick them gently. Gwen, as if she had received an electric shock, instantly withdrew her finger. A blush crept onto Gwen's face, smearing her fair complexion with a rosy crimson. Just then, the school bell rang in the teaching building. I've written down the address. If you don't come tomorrow, you're doomed. Taking advantage of the ringing, Gwen hurriedly shoved a card with her home address into Ailin's hand and bolted. She didn't even give Ailin a chance to refuse. Hey, they're gone. Don't even look at them. If you don't go to class, your teacher will deduct your credits. Just as Ailin sighed, a voice rang out from behind him. Turning, Ailin saw it was the Dean of Academic Affairs, whom he had met at the school gate. A smile graced his chubby face, and a hint of nostalgia lingered in his eyes. It was as if the previous scene had brought back some fond memories. Ailin offered no explanation to the dean, who had clearly misunderstood something. He simply gave a slightly awkward smile and ran back to his classroom. Back to the classroom. Ailin found his math teacher already waiting in the classroom. He didn't give Ailin any trouble, but nodded and let Ailin return to his seat. As soon as he sat down, a chubby Asian boy to Ailin's left nudged Ailin's arm with his elbow, leaned over, and whispered, "Ailin, you're so mean. You didn't even tell me when you met Goddess Gwen." Ailin turned to look at the round-faced, chubby boy beside him, who looked incredibly blessed. His surname was Wang, and his given name was Doug. In federal parlance, that's Doug Wang. Like Ailin, he was born in New York's Chinatown. And being Asian, he was one of the few classmates Ailin could talk to. But the boy was so talkative, and Ailin didn't dare to talk to him too much. So he said, "You're overthinking it. Didn't I take a leave of absence a few days ago? Gwen is a student assistant. After seeing me today, she came to ask about my situation and see if I needed any help." Ailin didn't lower his voice too much. While he was talking to the fat boy, he was actually talking to the other students who were listening attentively. After all, he didn't want all the gossip about him and Gwen to spread all over the campus the next day. Ailin came to school to learn professional knowledge, and he didn't want to waste his time on some boring things. Chapter 21 School Life. People always want to hear what they want to hear, and this doesn't change regardless of age. As expected. As soon as Ailin said this, the students around him, who had been eavesdropping, suddenly looked relieved, their faces lit up with a look of realization. Compared to the previous gossip about Ailin and Gwen, they were more willing to believe Ailin's explanation. However, the chubby Doug Wang curled his lips and deliberately said in Chinese, "Are you kidding me? If that were all, why would you two have gone out of your way to talk alone?" Both of them had 3 generations of respectable Chinese ancestry. They had been taught Chinese by their elders since childhood, so they sometimes used Chinese to communicate in school when things were awkward to say. Chinese is notoriously difficult to learn. Outside of the Chinese community, few at Midtown High School knew it. Communicating in Chinese offered them peace of mind. Ailin rolled his eyes and whispered, "That's the truth, believe it or not." "Hey," the fat boy's voice unconsciously rose a little, provoked by Ailin's words. He was about to say something else when he met the math teacher's stern gaze. Though the math teacher was old and kind, he wasn't dead. Making such a fuss in his class, did they really think he didn't exist? Doug, the fat boy, instantly withered like a frost-bitten eggplant. Even the other students in the room, Afraid to provoke the enraged math teacher, fell silent. Suddenly, the room fell silent. Seeing the entire room hushed under his authority, the math teacher nodded with satisfaction. He cleared his throat and announced that everyone present were nearing graduation. To better gauge everyone's level of knowledge, the school would be organizing a mock exam next week, with a math exam scheduled for Wednesday morning. He didn't want his students to be the worst performing class, so for the next few classes, he would review the material he'd previously taught and urged everyone to pay attention. As soon as the math teacher finished, the entire classroom erupted in excitement. The top students looked expectant, not a trace of panic. The underachievers, on the other hand, lamented, as if bereaved. Upon hearing this, Ailin's smile faltered. Good grief. On my first day back at school, you're already telling me I have an exam. Can I even continue studying? Although I've integrated my original body's memories, they're incomplete. Besides, my original body wasn't a top student. Every time I took a test, I'd only managed to rank somewhere in the middle or lower tier. Now it was my turn, when I hadn't even fully grasped the material. How could I possibly do well on this test? The math teacher at the podium didn't care for Ailin's feelings. Without even turning to the textbook, he simply picked up his chalk and quickly recited the formulas he'd previously taught, helping everyone quickly recall the key points. As the math teacher explained, memories of his two lives flashed through Ailin's mind, rapidly helping him integrate the mathematical knowledge within. Ailin rapidly absorbed and mastered even those points his original self had forgotten or even failed to grasp. After taking the fortune teller potion, Ailin's memory and learning abilities had already been further developed, reaching an extraordinary level. And while his previous meditation session on the cosmic brain didn't deliver the same dramatic boost as the potion, it still boosted Ailin's mental power and memory by half a level. Ailin's current mental acuity, memory, and learning abilities were truly astonishing. He frantically absorbed all the knowledge he hadn't mastered, memorizing it firmly and applying it to his own endeavors. As one of the most elite high schools in New York, and even the entire Commonwealth, Midtown High's teachers were among the highest caliber. In just one class, Ailin felt his math skills noticeably improve. While this was due to the fusion of mathematical knowledge from 2 lifetimes, it was also inseparable from the guidance of his teachers. After math class, he took turns with physics and chemistry classes, which significantly improved Ailin's knowledge. While he still couldn't compare to the top students in his class and grade, he was definitely no longer lagging behind. At 3 o'clock in the afternoon, Ailin took his books from his locker at school and prepared to take his advanced placement, AP, courses. AP courses allow students to earn college credits in advance, but the school doesn't require it, it's entirely voluntary. However, AP course grades are essential for admission to top federal universities. In typical federal high schools, courses are divided into 3 difficulty levels: illiterate difficulty, regular courses that are useless beyond obtaining a high school diploma; normal difficulty, honor courses that can potentially secure admission to 2nd or 3rd tier universities. And the most challenging AP courses require taking at least 5 courses and achieving an average score of 5 to even hope of applying to top universities. In the Federation, preparation for college begins the moment one enters. As a student at the elite Midtown High School, Ailin is no exception. However, Ailin now has his own plans and plans to take several AP courses in addition to the ones he originally took. While taking several new AP courses and earning a full 5 credit on the exams in a single semester would be challenging for most, Ailin feels that with his current memory and learning abilities, it shouldn't be too difficult. As Ailin was about to leave after retrieving his books from his locker, he unexpectedly ran into Gwen, clutching several books. Ailin, Gwen, why are you here, preparing for an AP class? Gwen raised her textbook, then glanced at Ailin's. You too. Ailin glanced at his textbook and saw that it was the same AP calculus textbook as Gwen's. What a coincidence. I didn't expect we both took this class. Gwen rolled her eyes playfully and said, calculus is a required course in college. It's not surprising that more people take it. Ailin smiled and said, that's true, but there's only one AP calculus class this afternoon. I didn't expect us to be in the same classroom. How come I didn't notice it before? Gwen asked curiously. Ailin smiled but said nothing. Gwen was the only one who didn't notice they were in the same classroom. After all, Ailin was a nobody at school. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 22 Tell the Truth. As for Ailin, he'd actually been peeking at Gwen during every AP prep class. It's just that Gwen had never noticed. His surprise just now was simply because he'd momentarily forgotten about it. After all, in Ailin's opinion, his original, naive crush had ended before it even began. He didn't even bother to look back at the memories related to that time. Want to join us? Gwen invited, waving her textbook. That previous moment of physical intimacy had clearly given Ailin a special place in Gwen's heart, making her want to get to know him better. Ailin shrugged and said, "Then let's join us. It just so happens that I have something to tell you." Gwen turned to Ailin and smiled, "As long as you don't mean to say you can't come tomorrow night." "Of course, if you do, I'll be selectively deaf." Gwen winked playfully at Ailin. This AP calculus course wasn't as difficult as Ailin had imagined. It was about the same difficulty as the calculus he'd taken in college in his previous life. After a single class, Ailin, having refreshed his memory with new knowledge, had made a dramatic leap forward in his calculus skills. Even more impressive was that Gwen, who was studying next to him, seemed somewhat dissatisfied with the superficiality of the AP calculus course. She spent most of the class poring over some profound mathematical paper. If the school bell hadn't rung, Ailin suspected Gwen would have studied alone at school until dark, books in hand. After putting his AP calculus textbook in his locker, Ailin retrieved his backpack, locked the door, and prepared to leave. Gwen, watching Ailin unpack his backpack, asked curiously, "Aren't you in a club?" Since the next day was the weekend, Friday afternoon after school was usually the time for most clubs to meet and participate in activities. Ailin shrugged. "I did add one before, but I have to go home early today." Gwen nodded and smiled. "Is that so? Then I won't see you off. Our chemistry lab group has an activity later." "Yeah," Ailin nodded, then offered, "See you tomorrow." "Yeah, see you tomorrow." He said goodbye to Gwen. Before Ailin could even reach the school gate, a chubby hand wrapped around Ailin's neck from behind. It strangled him tightly. "You're so good, Ailin. I told you there was something going on between you and Goddess Gwen, and you said it was nothing. Now I've caught you, and you're still not telling the truth. Don't try to trick me. I saw it all with my own eyes." The chubby hand that wrapped around Ailin's neck was none other than the fat boy Doug Wang. After forcefully prying the fat boy's fleshy hand apart, Ailin said angrily, "Tell the truth, damn it. Gwen and I are taking the same AP course this afternoon, microbiology. You know that." Then, twisting his neck, which was aching from the fat boy's stranglehold, Ailin said, "Also, Big Dog, you should lose some weight. If you don't, I'll be blind." Big Dog was the nickname of the fat boy, Doug Wang. Doug is pronounced very similarly to the English word for dog. Ever since someone used Big Dog as the fat boy's nickname, it had remained the same. As Ailin finished speaking, the fat boy's face turned green, and he forgot all the gossip he had been thinking about between Ailin and Gwen. The little fat boy glared at Ailin fiercely and said, "I told you, you can call me nicknames, but you absolutely can't call me fat. I've told you countless times, I'm not fat, I'm strong. If you don't believe me, pinch my biceps. They're so hard and strong, haha." Ailin looked at the little fat boy's biceps, which were soft and fluffy, as white as cotton, and rolled his eyes at him, letting him experience it for himself. Hey, what's that look in your eyes? I'm telling you." Without waiting for the angry little fat boy to argue, Ailin slung his backpack over his shoulder and headed for the school gate. Seeing this, the little fat boy immediately quickened his pace and gritted his teeth to follow. To avoid being harassed by the little fat boy, Ailin walked quickly. The little fat boy, chasing after him, was sweating profusely, but he couldn't catch up. He could only watch from a distance as Ailin hailed a taxi and sped away. Huff, huff, huff. Behind Ailin, the chubby kid, sweating and panting, saw Ailin take a taxi and said in surprise, "Taking a taxi? What a luxury. Has Ailin made a fortune? He's so extravagant." In the past, unless he was attending club events or something, Ailin would usually take the bus home with him after school. After all, a taxi from school to Chinatown wasn't cheap. Instead of spending the money on a taxi, they could save it for games or a better controller. After getting out of the taxi and opening the first floor door, Ailin saw Pepper Potts, dressed in a businesslike outfit, sitting on her sofa. In front of her lay a large pizza box, a plate of fragrant fried chicken, and 2 drinks. He had rushed back from school because Pepper Potts had told him she was coming to visit him. Little Ailin is back. I brought you a supreme pizza combo from Crown Pizza and your favorite fried chicken. Oh, and Coke, too. Seeing Ailin push the door open, Pepper Potts, who had a worried look on her face, forced herself to cheer up, dispelling the worry from her face. She smiled and asked Ailin to sit down. She then opened the boxes of pizza and fried chicken. Crown Pizza is a very famous pizzeria in New York City. The line is always long, and getting a pizza from this shop is not easy. As soon as the pizza box was opened, Ailin smelled a rich aroma emanating from the supreme pizza. Compared to the aroma of the pizza, the fried chicken on the side was much less delicious. Ailin didn't touch the fragrant pizza or the golden, crispy fried chicken, but took a sip of the drink on the side. Well, Coke, Aunt Pepper. You know me well enough to know I prefer Coke to the juice in the supreme pizza combo. Pepper Potts smiled slightly. Actually, I think the freshly squeezed juice at Crown Pizza is also delicious. You can try that for a change. Chapter 23 The Beginning of Destiny. Hey, that's Aunt Pepper. You don't understand the joy of Coke. Pepper shook her head. Okay, I'll stop teasing you. The pizza and fried chicken are both hot. Let's eat them while they're hot, or it'll get cold in a flash. As she spoke, Pepper took the meatiest pizza from the box and handed it to Aaron. Thank you, Aunt Pepper. Aaron didn't hesitate. He took the pizza from Pepper's hand and began to devour it. Ever since that time spent visualizing the cosmic brain, Aaron's appetite had increased dramatically. He ate a lot and got hungry quickly. He couldn't tell if it was because the meditation had been so exhausting, his body was making up for the lost nutrients, or if he needed more nutrition to satisfy his energy needs. At the end of the meal, Pepper only ate 1 slice of pizza and a glass of juice, while Aaron devoured the rest of the pizza and fried chicken. His starving appearance startled Pepper, who thought something was wrong with Aaron. Aunt Pepper, don't worry. I've been training lately, and it's been a bit exhausting, so I've been eating more. Training? Well, the reason I was kidnapped so easily last time was actually because I was too weak. Otherwise, even if I couldn't beat those bastards, it wouldn't have been easy for them to catch me. So after escaping this time, I've been training my physical fitness, and well, my appetite has been a bit bigger lately. I see. Pepper breathed a sigh of relief after hearing Ailin's explanation. Physical training is intense and exhausting, so eating a little more is okay, as long as Ailin isn't experiencing any health problems. And as a boy, it doesn't hurt to be stronger. After dinner, Ailin and Pepper began to chat. By the way, when I came here this afternoon, I heard Chief George call and say that the leader of the Water Ghost Gang was killed last night. Even the last remaining leader has been arrested by Chief George for murder. Now you can rest assured and stop worrying. Ailin was slightly stunned when he heard this. It turns out that the big boss called Watergrass was caught by the New York Police Department. No wonder I wiped out the Water Ghost Gang and couldn't find that guy. If he dared to touch the daughter of the New York Police Commissioner, Ailin believed that the next big boss called Water Ghost would be finished. In addition, he was able to become the second in command of a gang. Ailin didn't believe that he didn't have some dirty secrets. This time, he was in the New York Police Department, and there was no way he could get out. Ailin believed that the police officers of the New York Police Department and the prison guards would treat this Water Ghost well. Thinking of this, Arlen smiled and said, "This is really a case of evil being punished. Next, I can finally have a good sleep." Pepper also smiled and said, "You really should have a good sleep, otherwise it will be bad to go to Gwen's house tomorrow night without energy." Ah. Aunt Pepper, how did you know? Pepper smiled and said, "I know Gwen's mother Helen. In addition to inviting you, she also invited me. However, Stark Industries had an accident these days and I can't leave, so I can only let you, little boy, go there by yourself, but it doesn't matter if I don't go. Maybe you, little guy, can still win the beauty, so that's it." Automatically blocking out Pepper's teasing, Arlen recalled the worried look on Pepper's face when he first entered and asked, "Did something happen at Stark Industries? Aunt Pepper, is that what's been bothering you just now?" Pepper was slightly taken aback, then paused before resignedly saying, "You saw it all, of course. Well, I won't hide it from you. Tony's missing, and Stark Industries is in turmoil. Even the military keeps sending people to inquire about it. As Tony's personal assistant, I have to deal with all of this. On top of that, I have to deal with the reporters who have been flocking to me. These past few days, with so much going on, It's really been overwhelming, perhaps because she needed to talk about it for too long, or perhaps because she truly regarded Arlen as her nephew. Pepper directly confided in Arlen all the troubles she had been facing. Of course, besides the company's affairs, Arlen's situation also contributed to Pepper's concerns. However, Pepper didn't intend to bring it up in front of Arlen. Tony? Are you talking about the famous billionaire playboy Tony Stark? When did he disappear, huh? Pepper asked, somewhat surprised at Arlen's question. Don't you know? The news has been going crazy these past few days. Arlen shrugged. Aunt Pepper, you know, because of that incident, I haven't even watched the news these days. Oh, God. I'm sorry, Arlen, I forgot that, Pepper said with a hint of guilt, then pulled Arlen in and hugged him tightly. After a long moment, with Arlen's comfort, she finally said, come to think of it, Tony disappeared on the same day you were kidnapped, huh? The same day. Pepper had no idea how deeply her words had stirred in Arlen's heart. As Marvel's chosen one, Tony's disappearance marked the beginning of the extraordinary emergence of the Marvel Universe and the beginning of a profound change in the world. On the day Tony Stark disappeared, he happened to have traveled to this world. Was it a coincidence, or was there some hidden connection? Suppressing his shock and confusion, Ailin asked, really? What a coincidence, what a coincidence. Pepper rolled her eyes and said irritably, I've been so worried about you two these past 2 days. Your problem is solved now, but there's still no news from Tony. As she spoke, unconcealed worry flickered in Pepper's eyes. Don't worry, Aunt Pepper. Tony Stark is a world-renowned genius scientist. He'll be fine, Ailin reassured. But the military found the wreckage of several military vehicles and the bodies of soldiers at the site where Tony disappeared. They suspect Tony and his men may have been attacked by a terrorist organization. Pepper's voice trembled, as if she couldn't bear to think of the worst-case scenario. Seeing this, Arlen had to change his tone. Aunt Pepper, think about it from another angle. Given Tony Stark's status, if you were truly in danger, the terrorist organization that attacked them would surely have publicly announced it. Nowadays, no terrorist organization has come forward to claim that they attacked and killed the infamous Tony Stark. From another perspective, doesn't that prove that Tony Stark is actually not in danger? Chapter 24 Goodbye Coulson. If nothing unexpected had happened to this world. Arlen remembered Tony, swinging a sledgehammer in a cave. The conditions were harsh, but at least his life wasn't in danger. Hearing this, Pepper forced a smile. I hope so. Seeing Pepper's dim eyes, Arlen sighed inwardly. Never mind. For Aunt Pepper's sake, I'll help you. Having made his decision, Arlen said to Pepper, Aunt Pepper, if you really want to find your boss, Tony Stark, I can help. Pepper was stunned for a moment, then smiled, rubbed Arlen's head, and said, it's good that little Arlen has the intention. As for finding Tony, that's a matter for the police and the military. Clearly, Pepper didn't believe Arlen could really help. Stark Industries and the Federation military, two behemoths, had been searching for Tony Stark for so long without success. What good solutions could Arlen, a kid who hadn't even graduated from high school, have? Aunt Pepper, you don't believe me. Ailin wasn't stupid. How could he not hear the obvious coaxing tone of Pepper? Pepper smiled with her lips pursed. Although she didn't say anything, the meaning couldn't be more obvious. That? I believe it, but at this moment, a gentle and magnetic voice suddenly sounded in their ears. Hearing the unfamiliar voice, Pepper immediately stood up, shielding Ailin behind her. Then, with a wary look on her face, she warned the middle-aged man who had barged into the house without permission, Sir, this is private property. Please leave. Facing Pepper Potts, who was wary and had even pulled out her phone to call the police, Coulson, who had just pushed the door open, quickly pulled his ID from his jacket pocket and raised his hand, holding his briefcase, to signal his non-hostility. He quickly explained, Hey, Mom, don't be nervous. My name is Phil Coulson, and I'm an agent with the Strategic Homeland Defense Attack and Logistics Agency. Ailin can prove that. Pepper had never heard of the Strategic Homeland Defense Attack and Logistics Agency, but she understood the word agent. From a distance of 2 meters, she carefully examined Coulson's ID before turning to look at Ailin with an inquiring look. He is indeed the agent from that bureau with a long list of names. Ailin nodded to Pepper, confirming Coulson's identity. Then, expressionlessly, he turned to Coulson and said, However, I don't remember inviting you into my home. Mr. Coulson, are you planning to break into private residence, or do agents from that bureau have privileges that override federal law? Don't get me wrong, Coulson explained immediately. "The door was unlocked when I came in, and I heard you talking inside, so." Coulson's tone suddenly changed. "Okay, I apologize. I was wrong this time. I should have knocked first. But since I'm here to give you money, Mr. Ailin, please let me go." As he spoke, Coulson raised the bulging briefcase in his left hand. "Yes, giving you money. What's going on?" Pepper frowned in confusion. Ailin, who had finally come to his senses, asked in surprise, "Could it be that the payment for that last incident has arrived? What agency is that you're in? So fast." "It's the Strategic Homeland Defense, Attack, and Logistics Agency." After a reluctant correction, Coulson said with some pride, "Our Strategic Homeland Defense, Attack, and Logistics Agency has always been very efficient. Unlike some bloated agencies that drag their feet." Coulson unzipped his briefcase, revealing neatly stacked stacks of US dollars. Ailin's eyes lit up at the sight of the green cash. "Since you came all the way here to give me money, I'll let you off this time. However, if you come in here without warning again, I'll hire a lawyer and sue the Strategic Homeland Defense, Attack, and Logistics Agency." With that, Ailin took the briefcase from Coulson. Seeing Ailin take the entire briefcase, including the money, Coulson smiled awkwardly. "That briefcase is my personal property. After you take out the money and the tax certificate, can you please return it to me, Ailin?" Rolling his eyes, Ailin pulled out the $100,000 and a tax certificate with Ailin's name on it, then tossed the briefcase out. Snap! Coulson zipped it up naturally and put it away. Meanwhile, Pepper Potts, looking at the $100,000 on the table, said with a grimace, "Little Ailin, shouldn't you explain to me how all this money came to be?" Pepper was filled with worry and fear. $100,000 was a lot of money. Even for someone like her who had worked hard in the workplace for years, saving $100,000 would take her over a month. Ailin, a kid who hadn't even graduated from high school, how could the Strategic Homeland Defense Attack and Logistics Agency give him so much money all at once? Pepper was terrified of hearing some bad news from Ailin. Or maybe he'd tell her he'd joined the Strategic Homeland Defense Attack and Logistics Agency. Agents were a bunch of people who lived on the edge of a knife, risking their lives. Pepper didn't want her best friend's only son to become like that. Ugh. Seeing Pepper's grim, serious expression, Ailin knew she had misunderstood and quickly explained, "Well, it's like this, Aunt Pepper, I actually have some special abilities. Last time, when Coulson and his team were on a mission, I happened to do them a favor, and this is their reward. Didn't I just tell you that if you want to find your boss, I can help? Actually, it has something to do with my abilities." At this point, Coulson also spoke up. "Yes, Lord Ailin does possess some extraordinary talents. I can attest to that. That's why I was so excited when I heard he had a way to find Tony Stark, and I just pushed the door open." Tony Stark's father, Howard Stark, was one of the founders of the Strategic Homeland Defense Attack and Logistics Agency. Because of his connections, coupled with Tony Stark's own extraordinary talents, he has always been a target of the Strategic Homeland Defense Attack and Logistics Agency. Chapter 25 Coulson, we are professionals in saving people. In fact, after Tony Stark disappeared, the Strategic Homeland Defense Attack and Logistics Agency, SHALA, had also been searching for him, but unfortunately, they still had no clue where Tony was. So, after hearing at the door that Ailin had a way to find Tony Stark, Coulson eagerly pushed open the door. As Ailin and Coulson talked, Pepper hesitated. Could Ailin truly possess some unknown ability that could help find Tony Stark? If only Ailin had said this himself, Pepper would have dismissed it as self-consolation. But when an SHALA agent said so, Pepper had to question the truth of what Ailin had just said. After a moment's hesitation, her concern for Tony overwhelmed her doubts, and Pepper asked Ailin, "Little Ailin, do you really have a way to find Tony?" Ailin nodded. "I have a mysterious item that can indeed help find Tony Stark, but it's very valuable." Ailin didn't finish. Coulson, standing nearby, interrupted, "If you truly have something that can lead you to Tony Stark, we at the Strategic Homeland Defense Attack and Logistics Agency can offer you a generous reward, just like we did this time." Ailin glanced at Coulson and said, "My item is a consumable item. Its value isn't measured in $100,000, what about $200,000? Coulson asked tentatively. Ailin rolled his eyes and ignored him. Pepper, standing nearby, said, "If it's about money, I do have some savings." Ailin interrupted, "Why would I need your money, and Pepper? You've helped me so many times, Can't I help you this time? Besides, if Tony really has been kidnapped by a terrorist organization, and I found him, I'd be saving him in disguise. A life-saving favor. How could he, a billionaire, refuse to pay me? Of course not, Pepper smiled. Tony Stark didn't like owing favors to anyone. If Ailin could really find him and rescue him from the terrorist organization, with his conceited personality, he would definitely not be stingy in repaying Ailin. Otherwise, he would feel uncomfortable all over. Ailin shrugged and said, "That's it. However, although my prop can find Tony Stark, it can only do so much. If he is really kidnapped by a terrorist organization, we will need to find someone to rescue him." Aunt Pepper, doesn't Tony Stark have a good relationship with the military? I think you can contact the military and see if they can send someone. Seeing Ailin wanting Pepper to go to the military, Coulson on the side immediately became anxious. If the credit for rescuing Tony Stark was given to the military for nothing before his eyes, Coulson was sure that his director, who only had one eye left, would stare him to death with his remaining eye when he knew about it. Ahem, there's no need to bother. As long as Lord Ailin can pinpoint Tony Stark's location, our Strategic Homeland Defense Attack and Logistics Agency can immediately dispatch our most elite agents to rescue him. Believe me, compared to those military personnel who specialize in attacking, we agents are experts at rescuing people. Speaking of his expertise, Coulson's face shone with confidence, which was incredibly convincing. And Coulson wasn't wrong. When it came to rescuing people, specially trained agents were indeed a bit more adept than the military. Even Pepper, sitting across from Ailin, nodded in agreement. Ailin shrugged. "All right, I'll give you the chance to rescue Tony Stark, but in that case, you'll owe me another favor, Coulson. Letting our Strategic Homeland Defense Attack and Logistics Agency send someone to rescue Tony Stark? Why should I owe you another favor?" he asked, looking at Coulson, whose face was filled with a black question mark. Ailin said bluntly, "Don't play dumb with me. If Tony Stark is truly rescued, it will be a tremendous achievement for both the military and your Strategic Homeland Defense Attack and Logistics Agency. You're taking such a huge credit for nothing. Don't you owe me a favor? Who knows, maybe you'll even get a promotion and a raise for this achievement." Coulson, hearing this, Coulson raised his hands in surrender, signaling Ailin to stop. Okay. You're right. If Tony Stark is truly found, I'll owe you another favor." After hearing Coulson's assurance, Ailin nodded. "Wait a moment," he said, and ran up to the third floor. From his bedroom, he retrieved the once-used, locking crane. 10 minutes later, Ailin returned to the first floor, carrying a glass jar containing a pink paper crane. As he descended, Coulson and Pepper's attention were drawn to the object in Ailin's arms. Coulson immediately noticed the pink paper crane inside the glass jar, flapping its wings and repeatedly hitting the jar. "Is this the glass jar you were talking about?" Pepper asked skeptically, looking at the glass jar in Ailin's hand. "No," Ailin shook his head. "This pink paper crane inside the jar is the prop I was talking about. I just used divination to determine Tony Stark's location and engraved his information on this paper crane. Now, this paper crane will lead you to Tony Stark. Don't worry, as long as no one breaks the secret contract I placed on this paper crane, it will not stop flying until Tony Stark is found. If we follow the direction indicated by the crane's head, we can find Tony Stark," Coulson interrupted. Ailin glanced at Coulson and said, "That's right. But you'd better go to Afghanistan and then follow the guidance of this paper crane to find Tony Stark." After hearing the word Afghanistan, Coulson's eyes lit up and he immediately asked, "Afghanistan? Is Tony Stark still in Afghanistan now?" "According to the results of my divination, he is indeed in Afghanistan. The paper crane will take you to find his specific location." "Okay, I will go and ask the director to send the most elite agents to rescue Tony Stark." End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.